A young man, weary from work, walks across a crosswalk, letting out a wide yawn. Unseen by him, a car speeds directly into his path, its tires screeching as pedestrians recoil in horror. He turns his head just in time, his eyes widening as the vehicle bears down on him, a gasp escaping his lips. In the aftermath of the impact, his life flashes before his eyes. He was 25, single, working for a small company, and now dead in a Christmas accident. He laments his unfulfilled life, never getting to show his parents or sister his success, leaving his figure collection unfinished. His final thought is a regretful one. He had always been too concerned with what other people thought of him. As his consciousness fades, a new face appears before him, a young woman with star-like pupils, clad in a festive, fur-trimmed hood, looking down at him with a gentle expression. He finds himself looking up at her, now on a solid wooden floor, his mind reeling with confusion. He jolts upright with a cry of surprise. The woman calmly warns him not to move so suddenly, telling him it's dangerous. The reason for her warning becomes terrifyingly clear as the man realizes they are airborne, riding in a large, open-topped sleigh high above a fantastical landscape of floating islands, castles, and soaring dragons. They soar through the sky, a winged dragon flying alongside them. The woman remarks that he almost fell, and it was a good thing she was there to steady him. He stares out at the impossible landscape, murmuring that this is not the afterlife he had imagined. The woman clarifies that this is not his world, but a dreamlike place called Alvalencia, a world where magic, spirits, and dragons exist. She then strikes a pose, winking playfully as she introduces herself as the goddess who created this world. She explains that, as a reward for his virtue, she is giving him a second life in Alvalencia as a present. She asks if he likes Christmas and this sort of culture. The man can only stare, thinking to himself how lightly this goddess seems to treat his death. He blinked, still absorbing the news. A second life, but in his original body? The goddess leaned in, suggesting that starting over with all his knowledge and physical strength would be a hassle-free, ideal beginning. He rested his chin on his hands, a thoughtful expression on his face as he considered her words. She then cheerfully asked if he had any dreams or hopes for this new life, since his next one would begin so soon after his death. With a playful wink, she apologized for his previous life being uninteresting, a comment that left him aghast. He composed himself, bringing his hands together in a prayer-like gesture. He explained that he was trying to think more constructively now that his previous life was over, and his only wish was for those he left behind to live long, healthy, and happy lives. The goddess observed him, remarking that he seemed surprisingly well-suited for reincarnation. Urging him to change his focus, she once again asked about his hopes for his new life. He put a hand to his chin, considering the possibilities. Since it was a fantasy world, he mused that he'd like to go on adventures with a sword and magic, perhaps even with a dragon as a companion. Her eyes sparkled as she gave him a thumbs up, enthusiastically agreeing that they should enjoy a wonderful Christmas adventure together with a fantastic partner. Taken aback by her interpretation, he asked if she had been listening to him at all. She continued on, stating that he would need a lover again. The comment struck a nerve, causing him to flinch as he recalled being rejected just before a proposal. The goddess cheerfully told him to forget about that painful memory, prompting him to demand how she knew about it. Instead of answering, she extended her finger, conjuring a glowing, intricate snowflake-like pattern of light directly before his eyes. He recoiled in shock, clutching his head and demanding to know what she had just done. She explained that she had just bound his fate to an exceptional woman. Winking, she added that since polygamy was permitted in this new world, he could even have a harem. As she declared the start of his rose-colored life, he protested that this goddess wasn't listening to a word he said. Ignoring his complaints, she moved closer, leaning into him until her face was just inches from his, her long hair draping over his shoulder. As he sat there, stunned, she mentioned she had almost forgotten one more important thing. She explained that restarting in this world would be difficult for someone from Earth, so she had given him a special ability suited to his aptitude as a present. He processed this, cautiously asking if this meant he could use magic. He was abruptly shoved forward by the goddess, who sent him tumbling with a playful push. The push sent him careening through a swirling vortex. As he fell, a single, dreadful thought crossed his mind. It was all a lie, and he was about to die yet again. His descent ended not with a fatal impact, but a gentle landing upon a thick carpet of leaves. He lay there for a moment, the impact cushioned by the forest floor. Pushing himself up, he took in his surroundings. Towering trees surrounded him. He realized he was in a forest, and that the dense foliage had broken his fall. Before he could fully process his situation, a low growl drew his attention. A monstrous, black-furred wolf with saliva dripping from its bared fangs emerged from the bushes, its eyes fixed on him. The beast lunged. He threw himself backward, a wave of panic washing over him as he registered the creature's immense size. His life was in peril once more. As the creature's massive jaws closed in, he cried out in desperation, shouting for the goddess to save him. In response, a blur of motion shot past him. A small, barefoot girl slammed into the wolf with tremendous force, sending the giant beast flying through the air. He remained crouched on the ground, shielding his head in shock. The immediate threat neutralized, the mysterious girl turned to him. She asked if he was okay, if he had been hurt. He could only stare back, stunned into silence. Finding his voice, he thanked her profusely, calling her his savior. The girl, now revealed to have small horns nestled in her hair, smiled and said she was just glad he was unharmed. He watched her, his mind reeling with the fact that this small child had felled a monster in a single blow. He watched, stunned, as the girl who had just saved him was suddenly ensnared by a dark tendril erupting from the wolf's corpse, lifting her into the air. Moments later, the danger seemingly passed. They sat together, eating roasted meat from the creature. The girl happily declared it delicious, while he found it a bit tough but was simply relieved to have survived. As he ate, the reality of his situation settled in. He was hungry, his body ached slightly, and he'd been unceremoniously dropped into this world only to be nearly killed. The goddess's vague words about enjoying his third life felt hollow and unsettling. His gaze shifted to his companion, realizing he wouldn't have survived without her. He asked if she was from a nearby village, noting that though she looked like a young child, her strength was undeniable. She, in turn, wondered if there was a town nearby before beginning to introduce herself. She paused, her bright expression faltering. "Who am I?" she asked, a look of genuine confusion crossing her face. He stared, shocked by the sudden realization that she had amnesia. The girl struggled for a moment, trying to grasp her name, before triumphantly throwing her arms in the air, declaring that she remembered being called Mao. In response, he introduced himself as Q's Takuma. The girl, Mao, immediately shortened his name to Taku. He accepted the nickname, observing inwardly that she seemed remarkably cheerful for someone who had lost her memories. He then asked her what she was doing here. Mao explained that she had simply woken up in the forest, her memories of anything prior completely vague. She pointed out that Taku also seemed to have memory loss, and they acknowledged their shared predicament. His thoughts turned to his own mission. He lamented how suspicious he must seem, having come from another world, and wondered how he could possibly find his fated person in this condition. Hearing him mutter, Mao curiously asked what a fated person was. Her eyes lit up as she pressed him for details, asking if the goddess had chosen this partner for him and what kind of person they might be. Her sheer, sparkling-eyed excitement left Taku momentarily speechless. He is taken aback as Mao, with a blush on her cheeks, declares the idea of a fated partner to be incredibly romantic. Confused by her intense reaction, he questions if her excitement has a lewd undertone. She dismisses his concern, wondering why he isn't more excited about the prospect. However, she quickly shifts focus, acknowledging that their current situation and survival are far more pressing. He agrees, reminding her that they're both lost in the forest and suffering from memory loss. Mao then declares that for the sake of his future partner, he must strive to become stronger, more handsome, and wealthy. Flustered by her forwardness, Takuma places a hand on his chest and insists that his concern is actually for her well-being. As he tries to steer the conversation toward their immediate needs for food and shelter, his words are cut short by a sudden scream from Mao. She points urgently into the distance, shouting that they must head in that direction. Following her lead, they come across a clearing where a woman sits slumped against a tree, apparently injured. A large, menacing black wolf looms over her. The woman looks up, pleading for help from the attacking dark wolf. Without a moment's hesitation, Mao rushes forward toward the danger. Takuma watches her go, a sense of unease creeping over him as he feels something is not quite right with the scene. His suspicion grows as he observes the details. The woman's attire is pristine, and the surrounding foliage is undisturbed, inconsistent with a wild animal attack. As he processes this, the wolf's eyes begin to glow ominously, and a single, sharp horn sprouts from its forehead. The realization hits him with a jolt. The supposedly helpless woman now wears a malevolent smirk as a shadowy aura erupts, coalescing into the form of a small, winged creature. The newly formed creature darts through the air, flying straight towards the unsuspecting Mao. She continues her charge, calling out for it to wait. Realizing he cannot reach her in time, he desperately grabs a rock from the ground. With a determined shout, he hurls it, hoping to intercept the attack and protect her. The small, winged creature watches the projectile approach, scoffing that such a simple stone isn't even worth dodging. Suddenly, the stone erupts with a brilliant white light, accelerating to an impossible speed as it streaks through the air. It slams directly into the imp's back. Both the creature and Mao stare in shock, the imp crying out in disbelief that the rock had sped up. As the imp stumbles, Takuma rushes forward, relieved that his throw connected. Mao expresses her surprise, realizing the thrower wasn't human. The imp, clutching its head, sees about a human lover. Enraged, the creature screams for them to turn to ash. Takuma reacts instantly, diving and tackling Mao to push her out of the way of an unseen attack. He looks up from the ground to see the imp now juggling several small orbs of fire. Realizing the danger, he tells Mao they have to run, but the creature vows that it won't miss this time. Mao, however, seems completely unfazed. She calmly observes the imp's fireballs and then cheerfully announces that she can create one as well. To Takuma's astonishment, a massive sphere of flame begins to coalesce above her. The sheer magical energy radiating from the growing inferno terrifies the imp, who now wonders if Mao is a member of a high-ranking demon clan. With a determined expression, Mao declares that naughty children must be punished. With that, she thrusts her hands forward, launching the colossal fireball directly at her foe. The resulting blast obliterates the landscape, leaving a smoldering wasteland of shattered tree stumps. Takuma stares in stunned silence. Mao, however, seems pleased, remarking on her impressive fireball and concluding that she is quite strong and that the creature is surely dead. She points towards the smoldering aftermath, noting that the creature is somehow still alive. Takuma advises her to leave it be for now. Her attention, however, shifts to a dropped item on the ground, which she cheerfully claims for herself. As she inspects her prize, he catches the distinct smell of something burning. He turns to her just as she wonders aloud what might be inside the item she picked up. His eyes widen in alarm as he realizes the source of the smell. Her back is on fire. He shouts her name to get her attention, a frantic look on his face. She turns, still not understanding the danger, as he resolves that they must find water immediately. In the distance, a body of water glimmers. Mao points towards it, declaring she can smell it, and Takuma yells for her to hurry. Reaching the edge of a small cliff overlooking the lake, she leaps without hesitation, plunging into the cool water below with a tremendous splash. She surfaces with a delighted laugh, her dress now wrapped atop her head like a towel. She exclaims how much fun she's having, clearly enjoying the impromptu swim. With her arms outstretched in pure bliss, she declares how wonderful the water feels. Takuma, now in the lake himself, watches her energetic display and notes that she seems to be back to her usual self. His gaze then falls to his own soaked shirt. He notices a singed patch on the back and reflects that he could likely repair it, if only he had the proper tools. After climbing out of the lake, he sits on a thick tree root at the water's edge, twisting his shirt to wring out the excess water. From the lake, Mao continues to splash about, contentedly watching him work. A moment later, she approaches him from behind, asking what he is doing. He turns and explains that he just finished mending the burnt part of her dress. Overjoyed, she accepts his work. He then asks if her back is stinging, but she cheerfully confirms that she is perfectly fine. He watches her, a faint blush on his cheeks, and tells her she looks cute. Mao, admiring the new frills on her dress, is amazed by his work and asks how he managed it. She continues to admire the garment, noting how he even repaired the frayed sections with the borrowed sackcloth. He explains with a modest smile that he's quite skilled and enjoys meticulous work as a hobby. His focus then shifts to their immediate situation. Handing her a map, he suggests they also borrow some supplies from the miscellaneous luggage left behind by their previous attacker. He urges that they should leave the forest quickly before they are attacked again. In response, Mao looks down with a blush, apologizing. She admits that despite his strength and kindness, she was rude to him without knowing anything about his circumstances. He looks surprised by her apology and quickly tells her not to worry about it. Her demeanor suddenly changes to one of bright resolve. Clenching her fists, she announces that she has decided to help him find his destined person. She excitedly explains her plan. She will find his fated partner and tell them all about his wonderful qualities. With the decision made, she declares they must head to a populated town. Takuma, however, looks on in confusion, silently questioning how she can help him when she herself has amnesia. Brimming with excitement, she dismisses her own memory loss as something that will resolve itself in time. Right now, she proclaims, she is far more interested in the fun of meeting his fated love. As they begin their journey through the woods, he suggests they consult the map to plan their route to a town. Mao, however, stops him, holding up a peculiar, pumpkin-like flower. She explains that this pumpkin flower points south, which will help them navigate. He can't help but notice that the flower seems to have a face. She then reaches up and places the flower in his hair, telling him it's cute. He looks startled, asking her why the flower isn't moving. The reason becomes terrifyingly clear as the small bloom reveals its true nature. A colossal, carnivorous plant with a gaping maw of needle-sharp teeth, which now looms directly behind them. Both of them cry out in sheer terror. In the bustling city square, Q's Takuma stands holding a sign that reads, "I'm looking for the person of destiny." Beside him, Mao excitedly urges him to make sure everyone can see his face properly. Onlookers, a mix of humans and beast folk, murmur amongst themselves, one asking if anyone recognizes the man. Several hours earlier, she had raced ahead of their small party, proudly declaring that she was the first to arrive. With her arms thrown wide in celebration, Mao had joyfully announced their arrival in the city. She turned to Takuma, remarking on what a nice and lively place it was. He, however, was completely spent. Leaning on a walking stick, he pleaded with Mao to wait so he could catch his breath. They had gotten lost in the forest and walked a considerable distance to reach this point. Mao simply tilted her head, confused, mentioning that the map had indicated it was close by. Back in the present, Takuma walks through the crowded streets, observing the various demi-humans around him. The reality of his situation sinks in. He truly is in another world. Mao eagerly suggests they begin the search for his fated person immediately. He agrees, but thinks it wise to first figure out exactly where they are. Before he can elaborate, she excitedly cuts him off, claiming to have a great idea he needs to hear. Her idea resulted in the sign he now holds. He quietly wonders if she can even read what's written on it. Mao, taking his silence as approval, cheers that if they walk around like this, his person of destiny is sure to find them. With a cry of, "Let's go," she leads him back toward the town square. After some time passes with no results, Takuma begins to feel dejected. No one has approached them, and he starts to wonder if his fated person is even in this city. Mao notices his mood and asks if he wants to give up, though she adds that she understands his feelings. Suddenly, a soft voice asks if she could speak with him. A young, elf-like woman in a cloak has approached. Takuma stares in shock as Mao clasps her hands, thrilled that a beautiful girl has appeared. He can only think one thing. His person of destiny has come. They stand before a large, timber-framed building on one of the city's main thoroughfares, the daily life of the populace continuing around them. Takuma's gaze drifted past the woman, taking in the sight of adventurers who looked as if they had stepped out of a game, one even carrying a massive scythe over his shoulder. He remarked to her that the guild she was a part of seemed wonderful, filled with so many people who looked like game characters. She responded by reaching out and touching the fabric of his shirt, noting that she had never seen such fine, high-quality material before. She found it thin but not very elastic, and was intrigued that he would possess such clothing. Pulling her hand back with a slight blush, she apologized for her forwardness. She then formally introduced herself as Leash, an elf, and explained that she is currently registered as an adventurer at this guild. He, in turn, introduced himself as Takuma. He then gestured to the young girl, explaining that this was Mao, whom he had just met in the forest. He added that due to an accident, she had lost her memories and couldn't recall anything besides her name. She listened intently, then commented that the origin of his clothes must be unknown. Mao, overhearing the continued focus on the equipment, exclaimed that Leash must really like accessories. He quickly interjected, explaining that he had also come to this city to search for his person of destiny. He recalled a vague memory of having an appointment with someone before he lost his own memories. His explanation was cut short as Mao's attention was caught by something delicious looking on a menu. She pointed it out to Takuma, noting that the guild's light meals were surprisingly tasty and that she wanted to eat the cute dessert on display. His expression fell as he looked at the price. He admitted aloud that they didn't have any money. Mao confirmed that she had neither money nor memories. Leash observed them, remarking that their situation seemed more serious than she had thought. In response to their predicament, Mao proudly presented a large, dark, crystalline object. She explained that if they needed something beautiful, she had this stone that she got from the beast they defeated earlier. She then asked Leash if they could eat it, wondering if it was a magic stone. In response to her offering, Leash explains that magic stones are items dropped by defeated monsters. While they have various uses, they are fundamentally items for exchange. She points to the guild's reception desk, clarifying that they can be traded for cash right there, and asks if they'd like to do so immediately. As she speaks, a cheerful male elf with styled, light hair approaches the counter, greeting her familiarly as Leash-chan and asking if she's on a solo trip. Leash turns to him and requests that he handle the magic stone exchange. Takuma observes the man's casual confidence while Mao peeks over the counter. He is introduced as Rain, the guild receptionist. Leash explains to him that her two companions are suffering from amnesia after an accident. Rain expresses his sympathy, offering to help in any way he can. He then examines the stone Mao presented, identifying it as a B-rank magic stone. Rain elaborates on the ranking system, explaining that a stone's rank is determined by the monster's type and size. While D-rank stones come from lesser beasts, a B-rank stone is a rarity in the area. He assures them it will be more than enough to cover their living expenses for several days, bringing a wave of relief to Takuma and Mao. His explanation continues. Rain suggests that if Mao is found alone in the forest, they should try to find her family. He points out that the guild has a notice board specifically for finding people that they could use. At the mention of finding family, Mao begins to loudly declare that she is with Tak to find her destined person. Before she can reveal more, Takuma swiftly covers her mouth, silencing her with a strained smile. He quickly tells Rain they'll just post a notice for a lost child, as Leash watches the frantic exchange. Following Takuma's request, Rain sits down to sketch a portrait of Mao for the notice. The finished poster is pinned to a wall, stating that she is under protection, with the hope that her family will see it soon. With their living expenses now secured, Takuma enthusiastically pins the notice to the guild's public board, declaring that their next step is to find lodging. Seizing the opportunity, Leash speaks up, offering to recommend the inn where she works. She adds that there are many convenient shops nearby, and that she would be happy to go with them. Takuma thinks it's a good chance to do some shopping. Leash offers to guide them, and he gratefully accepts. Led by their new guide, the trio walks through a vibrant and bustling town marketplace, surrounded by vendors and citizens going about their day. He follows Leash through the bustling street as she explains that just ahead is a tool shop called Dwarf's Hideout. Mao, perched on his shoulder, looks around with wide-eyed wonder. Stepping inside, he is immediately impressed by the variety of goods. Leash explains that the shop is very convenient, as it stocks everything from daily necessities to adventuring gear, all in one place. He observes that the shop feels much larger on the inside than it appeared from the outside. A thought strikes him. Perhaps it's due to a mana enchantment, the same kind of magic that he suspects is responsible for his memory loss. While he ponders this, Mao's attention is captured by something else entirely. She excitedly calls out to Leash, pointing toward a shelf filled with cute, bird-like figurines. As Leash turns, her cloak billows out, creating a sudden gust of wind that knocks the figurines from the shelf. She quickly apologizes for the mess, explaining to a startled Mao that her cloak is simply a tool for creating wind. After the small mishap, they continue their shopping. Leash helps them select essentials like soapstone and toilet paper. Holding a large sack of their purchases, Takuma expresses his gratitude for her help. With their shopping complete, the trio steps back outside. Mao cheers that she had fun, and Takuma sincerely thanks Leash again. She smiles, replying that she was happy to be of service. She notices the large sack he's carrying and asks why he doesn't simply put it in his bag. She then inquires if it's a magic bag, noting that such items are typically very expensive and difficult to acquire. He stares at his own shoulder bag, then attempts to stuff the large sack inside. To his utter shock, it fits perfectly. It went in, he exclaims. Leash confirms it must be a storage bag with a mana enchantment, leaving Takuma stunned that he possessed such an amazing item without realizing it. This discovery prompts him to act. He turns to Leash, earnestly asking if she would teach him about mana, admitting there is so much he doesn't know. She smiles warmly and agrees, suggesting they could talk more after they have dinner. He leads his companions into a lively tavern, the air filled with the sounds of clinking mugs and cheerful chatter from a diverse clientele of humans and beast folk. Moments later, the proprietor serves them a steaming dish. He notes that while his establishment is a bit removed from the main street, he hopes they will enjoy the food. Mao, her eyes wide with excitement, exclaims that she's looking forward to it. As they begin their meal, Leash explains that the tavern is known for serving affordable dishes from various regions. Takuma, noticing a small, glowing creature nearby, wonders aloud what it could be. He then takes a bite of his food, his expression immediately brightening as he declares it delicious. Mao enthusiastically agrees. The flavor is so unexpectedly potent that both he and Mao are struck silent, their faces frozen in a state of profound, almost electric, shock and delight. With the meal finished and their plates empty, Takuma stands and announces that he will pay for everyone. Leash looks surprised by his offer. As Mao holds up her now empty soup bowl, she remarks that the dish reminds her of the cuisine from Leash's homeland. Leash, touched by the gesture, smiles and accepts his offer. Takuma then places a hand on Mao's shoulder, telling her he's grateful to her as well, since their earlier conversation is what led them here. Mao looks up at him, her expression one of pure contentment. In a dark alley, Leash stumbles, her body suddenly feeling unwell. She wonders aloud what is happening as she sees a man collapsed on the ground nearby. As she falls to her knees, she sees another man standing over the fallen figure, holding a small pouch. A wave of weakness washes over her, her face flushing as she questions what he has done. The two men reveal their deception. The larger one, with two-toned hair, smirks and comments on the effectiveness of the paralysis grass they used. In the background, Leash collapses completely. He gloats to his companion that an elf woman is a rare find and will sell for a high price. Helpless on the ground, Leash realizes they feigned illness to lure her into a trap, her body now completely immobile. She sits paralyzed, her face flushed and eyes squeezed shut in distress. The lead thug looms over her with a sinister grin, a new thought crossing his mind. The effects of the paralysis agent are clear, leaving her completely vulnerable and unable to resist. His hand reaches towards her as he suggests they should have some fun with her before they sell her off. Before he can touch her, Q's Takuma charges in, shouting Leash's name as his fist connects squarely with the thug's jaw, sending him reeling. He turns to Leash, asking if she can stand. She apologizes, explaining that she was carelessly struck with a paralysis herb. Q's glares back at the recovering thugs, calling them bastards. The lead thug, now brandishing a sword, warns Q's to leave the woman and disappear if he doesn't want to get hurt. As Q's flinches in surprise, Leash desperately tries to think of a way for them to escape. He suddenly recalled the goddess's words, how she had given him a special ability suited to his aptitude. He wondered what that power could possibly be. The larger thug mocked him for muttering to himself, sneering that it was no time to be thinking. Startled, Q's flinched back, clutching his stomach in fear as the man loomed over him and the still paralyzed Leash. He knew his position was weak, but he realized that if he could just knock the man out, they might have a chance. With a desperate cry, he threw a punch, which connected with an explosive, impossible force. The impact sent both thugs hurtling into the sky, their forms shrinking into the distance until they were mere specks against the stars. Q sat on the ground, stunned into silence by the result of his own attack. He scrambled to his feet and rushed to Leash's side, asking if she was all right. Taking her hand, he urged her to leave with him. She could only manage a weak affirmation and an apology. As he helped her, Leash let out a soft yawn. In that moment, her cloak slipped from her shoulders, revealing she was completely unclothed beneath it. Startled, Q's asked if she was hurt, but she simply replied that she was fine. Sometime later, Leash wondered aloud if the paralysis had worn off. She explained that she had gotten scared when she came out of the restroom to find no one there. Just then, Mao appeared, calling out for Tak. Leash turned to Q's and apologized again. He spotted Mao, but a wave of dizziness suddenly washed over him. His vision blurred as he began to fall, prompting panic cries from both Leash and Mao. His consciousness faded, only to return as he awoke in a soft bed. He looked up at a hanging lantern, confused, and wondered where he was. He called out for Leash and Mao. A small voice answered, and Mao peeked out from behind a curtain, announcing that he was awake. Q's pulled back the curtain, relieved to see Leash was safe, though she was once again unclothed. He winces in pain, clutching his side. Before him, Leash stands completely bare, her face flushed with embarrassment as she apologizes for him seeing her in such a state. In the next moment, she is on top of him, her body pressing against his. She asks if he is hurt anywhere, declaring her intent to heal him. As she continues to apologize profusely, Mao peeks into the room, calling out to Tak and announcing that it is already nighttime. With the situation calmed and Leash now dressed, she formally apologizes for the commotion, explaining she was only trying to help. Quirce, sitting on the floor, dismisses it, saying he's the one who should be sorry for losing consciousness and causing trouble. He thanks her for her help. He turns his attention to Mao, patting her head and thanking her for bringing him to safety. She tells him not to worry, that she's just glad they are both okay. Seeing how late it is, she suggests they discuss mana tomorrow. Quirce asks if she will help him again then. His thoughts turn to his new circumstances. He wonders aloud how he might find his destined person, but quickly clarifies his more immediate concerns. He needs to figure out how to survive in this town, find information about mana, and learn so much more. With a determined look, he clenches his fist, deciding that the most important thing is to learn how to earn money. Leash offers a solution, suggesting they all go to the guild together the next day for a proper explanation. Quirce gratefully accepts. Leash explains that since she has only just left the elven country, the kindness of the townspeople has meant a lot to her. She wants to return the favor by helping them. With that, she and Mao wish him a good night and depart. Lying in bed, Quirce stares at the ceiling, contemplating the day's events. Outside, the inn rests peacefully under a sky blanketed with stars. The tranquility is shattered by a violent crash. A massive, dark wolf-like creature bursts through the wall, its eyes glowing with menace. Quirce is thrown from his thoughts as Mao, terrified, cries out his name. With the immediate danger having passed, he sat in bed watching the young girl beside him. Rubbing a sleepy eye, Mao mumbled a question, asking if she could sleep there too. He agreed without hesitation, a quiet thought crossing his mind. Perhaps she was lonely, reminded of a family she no longer had. Her worries seemed to melt away as she snuggled under the covers, a peaceful smile forming on her face. She murmured about how much fun she'd had that day and wondered aloud what new, enjoyable things tomorrow might bring. Her voice trailed off as she called his name, Tak, already drifting into sleep. Standing before the Adventurers Guild, Leash reminds Quirce Takuma of his desire to learn about this world, its mana, and how to earn money. She explains that the quickest way to earn money is by taking on requests from the guild, which exists all over the world, ensuring they'll never be without work. Takuma marvels at the idea of becoming an adventurer. He expresses hesitation about difficult tasks like monster subjugation, but Leash reassures him, stating that she will handle the strong enemies. She urges him to simply sign his name on the registration form, which he does. With the form signed, Leash cheerfully announces that his registration is complete. Takuma is stunned, questioning how he could become an adventurer so easily. He repeats his question to the guild employee, Rain, who smiles knowingly. Beside them, Mao's eyes sparkle with excitement as she declares how brave it is that they will now defeat monsters to earn money. Mao's excitement is cut short as Rain explains that, unfortunately, they cannot accept monster subjugation requests yet. He gently pats Takuma's head, asking if he remembers the previous day's lesson on monster ranks and how their value changes accordingly. He continues, revealing that adventurers also have ranks, from S down to F, and can only accept requests matching their level. A diagram illustrates this hierarchy, showing that they are at the very bottom. F rank, limited to simple jobs like material gathering and town cleanup. Rain clarifies that to hunt monsters, one must be at least D rank, which requires passing a rank-up exam. While becoming an adventurer is easy, he notes, reaching D rank is also a simple enough task. As Takuma processes this information, a friendly voice calls out. A young elf boy approaches, mentioning that he just defeated several D rank monsters outside of town and asks if this is Takuma's first time. The boy introduces himself as Raiga, a very strong adventurer, and offers his help anytime. Leash remarks that he has the air of a local and that he helped her when she first arrived. Raiga gives the group a cheerful way. He announced his own intention to rank up, explaining that monster subjugation was his goal. The rewards for D-rank quests, he noted, were on a completely different level from the F-rank missions. Quirce Takuma listened intently, a thoughtful expression on his face. His words ignited a fire in his companions. Mao, with newfound determination, pumped her fist and declared her desire to defeat monsters. Catching her enthusiasm, Takuma clenched his own fist and agreed. They would take the rank-up exam. With their course of action decided, they returned to the guild hall. Leash informed Takuma that she would find a quest for herself while he retrieved the exam request. His attention, however, was drawn to the quest board, where a notice for a survey mission in a nearby forest with a surprisingly high reward caught his eye. He continued to study the board, his focus broken by the chatter of other adventurers nearby. They spoke of the same forest, remarking that while it was once an easy place to earn coin, it had suddenly become treacherous. Takuma turned, pondering the meaning of their words. As he considered this, Leash approached him, asking if he knew the man. She explained that she and Rain had also accepted a quest in that same location, but had to refuse it. Since going alone was dangerous, she proposed they all go together. Behind her, Rain protested the invitation, clearly annoyed, while Mao cheered at the prospect. She clasped her hands together, pleased, stating that their help would be invaluable. Before they could depart, however, she reminded them that she still needed to explain the concept of mana and that they had to sort out their equipment. She instructed Rain to wait for them at the warehouse, as Takuma gratefully accepted her guidance. Following her lead, they entered a spacious storeroom filled with a vast assortment of gear. Leash gestured around them, explaining that this was all equipment left by other adventurers for newcomers to use. Mao's eyes widened with wonder at the sight. Her enthusiasm was palpable. With a determined glint in her eye, she urged them to get equipped right away. Mao watched her, remarking on her sudden, lively demeanor. Moments later, Takuma stood fully outfitted in adventurer's attire. Leash detailed his new gear: light armor with mana enhancements, leather boots for mobility, and a short sword paired with sturdy gloves. He flexed his hands, pleased with the fit. Nearby, Mao was trying on a large, fluffy piece of armor, finding it cute but impractical. His attention then turned to a pile of raw materials. He picked up a piece of hide and asked Leash if he could use the leather and cloth available. She looked at him, slightly puzzled, and confirmed he could, but cautioned that such basic materials offered little defense. Before he could explain, she asked him to wait. He turns to Mao, who is now dressed in a fluffy, white, one-piece garment, and thanks her, remarking on how cute she looks. He adds that it's certainly better than having no equipment at all. Flustered, Mao asks if his profession is simply an extension of his hobbies, a notion he quickly dismisses. Stepping out into a field, Leash points toward a small, white creature with wings like a rabbit's. She identifies it as their target, a D-rank monster called a rabbit hawk. Leash muses on how cute it is for a creature they must defeat, while Takuma observes that its lovely appearance belies the damage it does to local crops. Leash lays out this simple objective: defeat the creature and retrieve its magic stone. She assures them its attack and defense are low, so a single good hit should suffice. Leave it to me, Takuma declares, charging ahead. Mao, eager to help, asks if she should fight as well and runs after him. His charge proves ineffective. The nimble rabbit hawk easily dodges and begins pecking him repeatedly on the head, forcing a pained retreat as Mao looks on. He scrambles back towards Leash, admitting that getting accustomed to this life might be difficult. He proposes trying to defeat it with a long-range magic attack, questioning if he's even capable of using magic before resolving to at least make an attempt. In response to his declaration, Leash's voice explains a fundamental principle: to use magic, one must use mana. The word hangs in the air as he repeats it with dawning understanding. Mana, her explanation conjures the image of a vast, luminous tree against a field of stars. Mana, she clarifies, is the very source of magic, originating from great mana trees. Though invisible, it is scattered throughout the world, a constant presence in the atmosphere. Mana, she continues, resides within all things, both great and small. It flows through rivers, nourishes plants and flowers, and dwells within every living creature, including themselves. It is this internal reservoir of mana that they consume to cast magic. Therefore, she concludes, to use magic simply means to imbue an object with mana, granting it a special effect, a state known as the blessing of mana. Takuma looks from his own hand to his gear, the concept finally clicking into place. I see, he murmurs. She adds that this principle is deeply intertwined with everyday life, from lighting a lamp's fire to heating water for a bath. As Mao cheerfully comments on the length of the explanation, Takuma crosses his arms, his focus sharpened. He asks the next logical question. Then how do you actually use magic? Leash closes her eyes, demonstrating the first step of magic. She explains that one must feel the mana flowing through their body and consciously gather it into the palm of their hand. A small, glowing orb of energy materializes above her open palm. She then thrusts her hand forward, shouting to release the gathered energy toward an enemy. The orb of light streaks away from her, leaving a trail in its wake. Mao, holding a similar orb of light, beams with pride. Leash explains that was a simple demonstration, noting that while her specialty is wind magic, every type has different effects and affinities. Mao proudly announces that she did it, and Leash praises her, remarking on how well she performed. Takuma turns to her, asking if she hadn't used fire magic before. Mao confirms that she did, then pauses thoughtfully, as if recalling the specifics. She demonstrates by conjuring a small ball of fire, asking if a flame of that size is what he meant. The flame suddenly erupts into a massive, roaring fireball, startling Takuma, who shouts at its immense size. In the background, Leash marvels at Mao's incredible talent. Inspired, he wonders if he can use magic as well. Deciding to try, he closes his eyes and mimics the instructions, attempting to feel the mana in his body and concentrate it into his hand. He struggles, panting from the effort. Mao asks if he's tired. Leash approaches, asking if he's trying to concentrate his mana. She explains that humans tend to have low mana levels, making it difficult to grasp the technique. Offering to help, she asks to borrow his hand to guide his mana. Leash takes his hand in hers. Takuma looks on, confused, as a faint glow emanates from their joined hands. Her expression shifts to one of utter shock. She exclaims that this can't be possible. Takuma, misinterpreting her reaction, asks if it's because he has no mana at all. Leash clarifies that while everyone's capacity is different, she is shocked that his mana levels might be even lower than that of other humans. He collapses to his knees, utterly dejected. He cries out in despair, wondering if he has no talent for magic whatsoever. Mao looks on with concern, asking if he's all right. while Leash remains puzzled by the strange reading. He looked toward the horizon, his thoughts interrupted by a plume of smoke rising from the distant forest. He wondered what could be happening. His question was answered by Leash, who announced she was going to investigate and told them to continue their trial. Mao immediately declared she would go too, and Takuma, agreeing, urged them to hurry. As she sprinted towards the disturbance, a grim realization struck her. This was far more than the simple scouting request she had been led to believe. They arrived to find a colossal, feathered beast roaring before a group of terrified adventurers. One of them cried out that they had never been warned of an A-rank demon beast in the area. In a fit of terror, one of the young adventurers broke from the group and fled. The beast immediately turned its attention to the fleeing figure, growling as it gave chase. Before the creature could strike, Leash vaulted into its path, a staff topped with a dark or materializing in her hand. She slammed it down, blocking the monster and shielding the adventurer, who looked up at her with gratitude. Mao watched in awe, exclaiming how strong Leash was. Takuma, equally stunned, wondered aloud where she had gotten such a weapon. Leash simply acknowledged his surprise. His awe quickly turned to fear as the beast recovered, looming over Leash. Takuma's eyes widened, and he shouted a desperate warning for her to be careful. The creature lashed out with a massive, feathered arm. Reacting in an instant, Leash shoved Mao clear of the devastating blow. As she was thrown aside, Mao cried out Leash's name in concern. Regaining her footing, Leash declared she would help defeat the beast and instructed Takuma to tend to the injured adventurer. He accepted the task, resolving that even if he felt useless, he had to do what he could in that moment. As the battle raged, Leash lunged forward with her staff, while Mao, seeing an opening, dashed in from the side. Her initial assault proved ineffective. Leash realized her attacks weren't connecting with the massive beast and called out to Mao, suggesting they buy some time and then retreat. From the sidelines, Takuma watched with concern. Before they could act on the plan, the beast swung its massive, feathered arm, striking Leash squarely in the chest. The force of the blow sent her reeling backwards, a pained gasp escaping her lips. Seeing her companion struck down, Mao leaped into the air, her hands gathering a sphere of brilliant light. She roared at the creature to get away from Leash. She unleashed the energy, which slammed into the beast's side with explosive force, staggering the colossal creature. The unexpected counterattack left Leash stunned. She stared in disbelief, realizing that Mao had somehow reflected the magic. The sound of the blast reached Takuma, who was still protecting the injured adventurer. He turned abruptly, his eyes wide with shock at the display of power. At the same time, the adventurer he was guarding made a strange discovery. When asked if her wound was still painful, she looked down at her chest in confusion and replied that she felt no pain at all. Sensing the shift in the battle and concerned for his friends, he broke into a sprint, shouting their names as he raced back toward the fight. He burst into the clearing only to be met with a daunting sight. The A-rank beast stood tall, seemingly unfazed, while Leash held her ground defensively. Between them, Mao lay motionless on the forest floor. The overwhelming difference in power was painfully clear. In a desolate clearing, Q's Takuma stands frozen as a colossal, leafy demon beast roars. Before the creature, the elf Leash lies motionless, while closer, the young horned girl, Mao, is also collapsed on the ground. Seeing her condition, he cries out Mao's name and sprints towards her. She remains on the forest floor, groaning softly in pain. He reaches her side, gently lifting her into his arms. Mao insists that she was just careless and can still fight, but Takuma firmly tells her not to push herself. He then asks if she's able to drink a recovery potion. As he holds her, a single, desperate thought consumes him. If only he had the strength to protect her. He brings the potion to her lips. As she drinks, Mao feels a comforting warmth spreading through her, a warmth she recognizes as coming from Takuma himself. Suddenly, a sharp cry rings out. Takuma's head snaps up in alarm, his eyes wide with shock as he realizes Leash is in danger. Cursing under his breath, he lays Mao down gently and dashes away, deliberately drawing the beast's attention. The creature roars, its focus shifting towards Leash, drawn by a dark, spherical object Takuma had thrown to land beside her. The thrown lure shatters harmlessly against the beast's tough hide as Takuma stumbles from the effort of his sprint and throw. Scrambling back to his feet, he shouts a challenge, goading the monster to come after him. The massive beast turns, its crystalline gaze now fixed solely on him. He yells, trying to keep the beast's attention fixed on him. Though fear grips him, he knows he cannot let it turn back toward his friends. Turning to flee, he realizes the creature is surprisingly slow on its feet. He thinks that if he can just keep weaving between the trees, he might be able to outrun it. His brief moment of hope is shattered when he glances back. The beast has stopped, gathering a crackling sphere of energy above its leafy crest. The energy blast erupts forward, narrowly missing him as he dives for cover, instinctively shielding his head in terror. He scrambles back to his feet, the reality of the situation sinking in. This is a monster that even professional explorers couldn't defeat. He can't let his guard down for an instant and must lead it deeper into the forest. Pushing his body to its limit, he runs on, sweat pouring down his face. Then, without warning, all strength abandons his limbs. He stumbles forward, collapsing onto his hands and knees, wondering what is happening to him. As he struggles to rise, a colossal shadow engulfs him. The demon beast towers over his fallen form, its pursuit at an end. He looks up, but his vision blurs and fades. It's no use. He can't move. As darkness consumes him, his last conscious thought is a prayer for his friends. Everyone, please, escape safely. He lay unconscious, saved from the brink by the sudden arrival of a towering, horned woman. She cradled his limp form in one arm, her expression serene as she descended amidst a shower of ethereal petals. Her gaze was fixed and intense, a silent assessment of the situation before her. Her attention then shifted to the demon beast, which let out a low growl. Reaching out a hand, she spoke softly, apologizing that this was her fault. In response to her gesture, a swirling vortex of light erupted from the creature, its entire essence being drawn out and pulled towards her outstretched palm. The brilliant energy condensed in an instant, forming a single dark crystal that fell gently into her waiting hand as the small familiar hovered nearby. With the threat neutralized, she carefully laid the young man down on the forest floor, gently supporting his head. Looking down at his sleeping face, a faint blush appeared on her cheeks as she murmured with relief that he was safe. Her relief quickly turned to dismay as her hand began to fade into particles of light. She realized with a start that she was out of time, lamenting that she had no choice but to leave without speaking to him. Leaning close, she placed a gentle kiss on his forehead, whispering a promise. See you again. Moments after she vanished, Raiga and another adventurer arrived at the clearing. Raiga stopped short, puzzled, questioning how the demon beast's presence could have simply disappeared. His companion, however, spotted the figure on the ground, pointing and calling out, Raiga, over here. He rushes through the forest, his voice cutting through the sudden silence as he calls out, Is everyone all right? Arriving at the clearing, he finds it eerily quiet. He realizes with a start that the overwhelming presence of the demon beast has completely vanished. His search leads him to his companions, all unconscious. Q's Takuma sits slumped against a tree, with Leash and Mao resting against him. In Takuma's hands is a large, dark magic stone, and Raiga stares at it, wondering what it could be. The following day, the atmosphere is much lighter inside the guild's second-floor tavern. There, Leash beams, her hands clasped in delight as she offers her congratulations for passing the D-rank promotion exam. She explains to a somber Q's Takuma that she was unable to defeat the demon beast. All she managed to do was escape. He listens with his head lowered, a shadow of disappointment crossing his face, while Mao dozes beside him. Leash admits to Q's Takuma that she was powerless against the A-rank demon beast, even with her magic. However, she points out that his achievement in protecting the other adventurers is commendable for a D-rank, and that he should be proud. His expression hardens as he clenches a fist. He realizes that he cannot remain as he is. He must become stronger, or he won't survive, let alone be able to search for the person he seeks. Hearing his resolve, Mao enthusiastically raises a fist, declaring that she will also get much, much stronger. Takuma looks over, wondering how much more powerful she could possibly become. She lays out her plan. Become an adventurer, defeat many monsters to grow strong, save money, and then help Takuma search for his fated person. She adds that she also needs to find her own family. A flustered Leash asks if this fated person is the one Takuma wants to meet. Mao beams, confirming that the goddess told her so. In a panic, Takuma quickly covers her mouth, urging her to be quiet. Leash reacts with alarm, noting that the word goddess carries a strange connotation in this world. She explains that according to the goddess's oracle, one must not seek out their fated partner. Takuma is surprised by this, questioning if oracles are a common occurrence in this world. Leash adds that the other person might also be in a situation where they need Takuma. He recalls the goddess's words about this, wondering if he is the one his fated person needs. With a sly grin, Mao leans in and reveals the secret. They'll know who the fated person is if they kiss. The revelation sends a jolt of electricity through Takuma, whose face contorts in shock, while Leash looks on, blushing. She continues, sighing that it's all so romantic. A flustered Takuma insists she doesn't need to elaborate, but Mao simply smiles sweetly, pleased with herself. Her words, however, have a clear effect on Leash, who blushes and touches her chin thoughtfully, murmuring the word kiss. Seeing her reaction, Takuma asks in disbelief if Leash has never kissed anyone before. She covers her mouth, her face flushed with embarrassment. Takuma, looking flustered himself, tells her she looks troubled and insists he's never said anything like that before, while Mao watches the exchange with wide-eyed excitement. He apologizes for the strange turn in conversation, admitting that being told such things by a goddess so suddenly has left him flustered. Leash, regaining some composure, smiles and agrees, saying she will be on her way. Before she can depart, Mao asks if Leash is also searching for someone. Leash turns back and confirms that she is, in fact, looking for the savior. The title catches Takuma by surprise. Leash explains that a prophet in the land of the elves received a divine oracle. She elaborates that this savior is prophesied to appear from another world, and her mission is to find and assist them. The description strikes a chord with Takuma, who realizes her quest sounds remarkably similar to his own circumstances. Now seated together, Takuma presses for more information, asking what kind of event would necessitate a savior. Leash looks at him with a hint of sadness, questioning if he has truly forgotten everything. She solemnly explains that their world is being threatened by the Demon Lord. The words Demon Lord and another world echo in Takuma's mind, the gravity of the situation beginning to sink in. He recalls the goddess's words about saving the world, a task that seems at odds with the peaceful surroundings. Leash acknowledges the apparent tranquility, but clarifies that the demon lord's domain is far from here. However, she warns that his army has recently begun more aggressive incursions, creating a palpable sense of unease. Mao interjects, raising her hand and declaring that fighting is not good. Takuma praises her for the excellent question, prompting her to ask what kind of person this savior is supposed to be. Leash begins to recite the prophecy's description. A person of exceptional talent and drive, possessing both courage and compassion, destined to achieve great things, and who is also handsome and brave. Hearing this, Takuma breaks into a nervous sweat, thinking to himself that the description absolutely does not fit him. He considers his next move, thinking that since he hasn't gathered much information, he should move on. He muses that traveling alone might be dangerous, a sentiment Leash immediately echoes, recalling a time she was in trouble herself. Mao agrees, adding that having companions would be a good idea. Seizing the opportunity, Mao enthusiastically proposes that they all travel together. She explains that her group is also searching for someone, making it a perfect arrangement. With a determined grin, she boasts of her strength and her plans to become even more powerful. She turns to Takuma, calling him Tak, and seeking his agreement. He seems taken aback by the sudden offer, pointing out that Leash is a professional adventurer and questioning if she would truly want to travel with them. Leash, her cheeks flushed, shyly asks if he is certain about the invitation. Her shyness gives way to a radiant smile. Leash confesses that she has only just left the elven country and has been feeling quite anxious. The prospect of traveling with them is incredibly reassuring, and she formally asks if they will accompany her. In response to her plea, Mao tells her not to worry, confidently stating that Takuma will protect her. He, however, says nothing, merely offering a strained, sweaty smile. He breaks the silence by planning their next destination, suggesting they head to the royal capital. Mao asks what kind of place it is, and Leash agrees with the plan, reasoning that a populous city would be ideal for their search. Takuma then turns to Mao, asking if she's ready to head there. Before she can answer, a new, cheerful voice cuts in. A young elf with a goggled cap appears, flashing a peace sign and asking if she can join them, as she is also heading in the same direction. A cheerful elf woman wearing a cap with goggles approaches cues Takuma. Saluting him playfully, she notes that he and his companions are heading to the capital and asks if she might travel with them for part of the journey. Takuma, taken aback, asks who she is, while Mao and Leash look on with equal surprise. The elf woman introduces herself as Noel, a dwarf he helped during a previous exploration. A memory flashes of the encounter. She explains that she thought she was going to die, but the recovery medicine he gave her was incredibly effective. She thanks him profusely for saving her. He replies that he's just glad she's safe. Noel leans in close, her eyes sparkling with admiration as she gushes about his amazing recovery medicine. She exclaims that it healed a deep wound in an instant, praising his incredible ability to enhance a simple potion into a powerful elixir. As Noel continues her enthusiastic praise, Mao leans over to Takuma and whispers that he has no mana and can't use magic. She questions if he truly has the aptitude to be an item crafter, wondering if the tool shop made a mistake. Noel, however, seems to understand. She winks and points confidently at Takuma, declaring that he's indeed a tool craftsman, just like her. She calls him a genius, capable of even bestowing mana through his enhancement abilities. She then excitedly produces a special tool, a mana gazer. She explains it's a super convenient device that makes latent mana visible as an aura. With it, she proclaims, his true power will be obvious to everyone. Lifting the mana gazer to her eye, Noel peers at the group. A faint glow emanates from Leash, but to Noel's confusion, there's no aura at all around Takuma or Mao. She stares bewildered. Her energetic demeanor vanishes in an instant. She slumps onto the table, utterly deflated, complaining that he has zero mana and isn't a mage at all. She laments that she had hoped to learn some amazing techniques from him. Takuma retorts that she shouldn't say such things so bluntly, especially after claiming to understand his secret. Leash, however, speaks up in his defense, explaining that while Takuma may seem weak, he is very kind and courageous. Mao chimes in, agreeing that he saved her when she was attacked, before cheekily wondering aloud if he peeked while she was bathing. Takuma flinches, embarrassed, as Noel sits across from him. She concedes that while their encounter was an accident, he is indeed her savior. However, she finds him unreliable as a traveling companion, though she admits she has little choice in the matter. As they sit in awkward silence, Leash appears with a bright, cheerful expression. She asks if they're going somewhere together, remarking that it looks fun. She then adds that she has never seen a human with zero mana before, causing both Takuma and Noel to stare at her in surprise. With the group now formed, they travel along a road toward the capital. Mao rides happily on Takuma's shoulders, cheering him on. As they walk, Noel points out a weak demon beast up ahead, training her footwork as she goes. Without breaking stride, he casually kicks the small, rabbit-like creature, sending it flying. Mao and Leash watch the display with unimpressed expressions. Despite this, Noel continues her teasing, musing aloud about the future prospects of 25-year-old, mana-less beginner adventurer. Leash and Mao clasp their hands as if in prayer for him. Annoyed, Takuma retorts that he can hear everything she's saying. They soon leave the main street, arriving in a less populated area of the city. As Takuma observes their surroundings, Mao, still perched on his shoulders, asks if they have arrived at their destination. Just then, two young boys run toward them, calling out for his sister and announcing they've brought adventurers from the guild. A young woman approaches, asking what has happened and apologizing for the children's mischief. She leads them into a large, sparsely furnished room where they all sit at a long table. The woman explains that they had requested adventurers and have been waiting. As she speaks, one of the boys climbs onto Takuma's back, remarking that he seems weak for an adventurer. More children appear, happily greeting the woman as their big sister. As Mao peeks over the table, the woman wonders to herself if this place is some kind of orphanage. Leash declares that Takuma is her fated person. As she does, Takuma gently pats her head, finally understanding the situation. The orphanage is in trouble because a demon beast has taken up residence in a nearby cave. At the orphanage, the young woman explains the situation to Noel. She had submitted a subjugation request to the guild, but because the reward is low and the threat seems minimal, no one has come forward to accept it. She worries no one ever will. Hearing this, Takuma realizes that recovery medicine must be prohibitively expensive for common people. Before he can process this further, Mao slams her hands down, her eyes wide with determination, and declares that her party will be the one to defeat the demon beast. He agrees immediately, admitting he was thinking the same thing. Leash smiles, voicing her approval. Noel, however, closes her eyes and firmly objects, but her protest is lost amidst the group's enthusiasm. The conversation is overheard by the children of the orphanage. With tears welling in their eyes, they gather around and plead with the adventurers to help their caretaker. Mao looks on, taken aback by their earnest appeal. Their pleas turn to cheers of relief as they realize the group has accepted the job. This only serves to agitate Mao, who grits her teeth and shouts that using such emotional appeals is a dirty trick for adults to fall for. Having accepted the quest, the party arrives at the entrance to the cave behind the orphanage. A notice marks it as danger rank D, a threat level considered to be below that of a proper dungeon. Just inside, Noel shields her eyes and observes that mana has begun to pool within the cavern. She correctly deduces that the cave is on the verge of becoming a dungeon. Leash elaborates, explaining that when a demon beast settles in a location, mana gathers around it, eventually forming a dungeon. She calls it a serious problem. When Takuma asks if they must defeat every monster inside, she confirms that brute force is the only way to resolve it. Eagerly, Mao declares they must defeat the beast quickly, noting that rare magic stones are often found in such mana-rich places. Noel shouts at her and Leash, questioning if they aren't worried about dangerous monsters. Leash calmly reassures her that since it isn't a full dungeon yet, they should be fine. Their first encounter is with a pair of rank D demon beasts, slimes. Mao picks one up, cradling it gently and telling Takuma how cute it is. He looks on, unamused. She cries out that the creature is not cute at all as it suddenly engulfs her. Cues Takuma observes from the side, remarking that since slimes are weak demon beasts, they should be able to take care of it quickly. Before he can act, Noel springs forward, yelling for everyone to gather the spoils. She explains that while a slime's magic stone is garbage, its bodily fluids are an indispensable material for crafting. In the background, Takuma and Leash watch her, with Takuma declaring he'll help too. He throws a punch, but his fist passes straight through the slime's gelatinous form without any effect. He quickly realizes that a direct physical attack won't work. He glances down at his hand, then turns his attention to Noel, noticing her strange expression and asking if something's wrong. She nervously offers him a weapon, suggesting he try using it. The weapon is a simple, bat-like club. Suddenly flustered, she shouts that such a weapon doesn't suit him and is just plain creepy. He takes the club, observing that it looks like a bat. Agreeing to her request, he readies himself, stating he'll just swing it around to defeat the enemy. As he speaks, the slime begins to advance on them once more. Inside the cavern, Q's Takuma tested his new weapon, a slime affixed to a stick. With a sharp exclamation, he swung it down, splattering the creature against the stone floor with a wet smack. He found it surprisingly light and easy to swing, remarking that it felt like a baseball bat. Noel confirmed his assessment, explaining that it was a weapon specialized for bludgeoning. Though its appearance was simple, she had imbued it with a mana enchantment, giving it far more attack power than it seemed. She then explained that since his identity had been exposed, he couldn't use his old methods anymore. With a cheerful smile, she offered to formally trade the new weapon for the drop materials he had collected. With the matter settled, she turned her attention to the cavern ahead, pointing out the large number of slimes. She urged Takuma to join the fight and gather materials, announcing that she and the others would proceed deeper into the cave. As they prepared to move, Leash expressed her admiration for Noel's insight. She was amazed that Noel could so accurately identify Takuma's weaknesses and provide him with a perfect weapon. Leash then wondered aloud about the specific mana enchantments on his previous boomerang and the new club. She was particularly impressed by the delicate technique required for such mana imbuement. Noel, however, appeared flustered by the compliments, insisting it wasn't such a big deal. Trying to deflect the praise, Noel adjusted her cap. At that moment, Mao asked how the slime's bodily fluids were used, a question that immediately piqued Noel's interest. Just then, Takuma's voice cut through their conversation. He announced that he had finished off all the slimes in their immediate area. Leash acknowledged this and suggested they all proceed further into the cavern. They ventured deeper into the winding passage. As Noel and Leash chatted, none of them noticed the massive, silent danger lurking directly above them, a giant slime clinging to the ceiling. His eyes shot upwards, and a cry of alarm escaped his lips as he pointed frantically. "Up! Look up!" he yelled. His sudden shout caught the attention of the others, who turned towards him in confusion, unaware of the threat descending upon them. A sudden, wet squelch and a cry of surprise cut through the cavern silence. The giant slime had dropped from the ceiling, its gelatinous body engulfing both Noel and Leash. Noel struggled against the creature's hold, while Leash was frozen in shock. Trapped within the sticky mass, Noel cried out in disgust. The creature was identified as a C-rank monster, a large slime. Her shouts alerted the others. Mao screamed that it was an emergency as she and Takuma raced toward the scene. He called out, asking if the two were all right, but Noel could only yell for help, complaining about the foul, sticky sensation. Mao reached them first, grabbing Leash and pulling with all her might. Leash cried out that it was no use. She was stuck fast. As she struggled, the slime began to pull Noel deeper into its mass. Takuma lunged forward, grabbing onto her and yelling for the creature to let her go. With a final heave, he managed to wrench them free. Kneeling beside the unmoving Leash, he feared the worst, thinking for a moment that she might be dead. Leash stirred. However, her face flushed as she apologized, explaining that the sticky feeling had made her intensely nauseous. As Takuma expressed his relief, Mao suddenly called out his name, pointing toward the ground. He turned to see several small, quivering blobs of slime, remnants from the struggle, scattered across the cavern floor. Before their eyes, one of the blobs began to coalesce and reform. Mao grimaced, exclaiming that the torn-off pieces were sticking back together, disgusted by the creature's persistence. He watched the small slimes regenerating on the cavern floor and asked Leash if they were combining to form the giant one. She confirmed his suspicion, explaining that they needed to find and defeat the leader among them to make the others disperse. Understanding the strategy, he resolved to find it. Before they could act, however, a viscous substance suddenly coated Noel, Leash, and Mao, causing them to stumble. Mao cried out in confusion, unsure of what was happening as the sticky fluid clung to them. Mao declared that she would handle it, preparing a wind spell to blast the slime off herself and Leash. Noel quickly stopped her, holding up a magical magnifying lens. She explained that the item, a mannequin, could help them find the leader, as its aura would be larger than the others. Takuma looked on as Noel prepared to use the device. Her plan was immediately thwarted as a glob of slime splattered across the lens, blinding her. She cried out in frustration that she couldn't see anything. Takuma realized this approach was failing, but just then, Noel wiped her face and suddenly spotted their target. "There!" she shouted, pointing toward a single small slime. The creature she indicated launched itself through the air, flying directly at Leash, who was still struggling to free herself. It struck her squarely, knocking her to the ground with a startled cry. Takuma rushed to her side, apologizing as he held up a small, glowing orb, the captured essence of the leader slime. With their leader captured, the viscous substance binding Noel and Leash instantly dissolved, splashing away and sending the two of them tumbling. Mao urged Takuma to finish off the remaining slimes, and he readily agreed. Noel, holding her lens, thanked him, remarking on how helpful the item had been. Her expression then shifted to one of confusion as she examined the lens more closely. She stared through the magical device in stunned silence. On the cavern floor, the remaining slimes were not inert. Each one pulsed with the same distinct, leader-like aura she had seen before. She watched him, her gaze fixed on his every move. As Takuma raised his weapon to strike down another of the small slimes, Noel's suspicion was confirmed. She murmured to herself that the old man was definitely doing something to them. Outside a rustic wooden building, a peculiar penguin-like creature stands with a scroll fastened to its leg, its task seemingly complete. Inside, Leash addresses the creature, confirming that the guild's subjugation is finished and that she is sending a report on the cave's danger level. As Mao watches with a stunned expression, Leash tells the messenger to be careful, remarking on how cute it is. The creature then takes flight, much to Tak's astonishment. As he exclaims that the penguin is flying, Mao waves goodbye. The messenger calls back, assuring them that the slimes in the cave have been defeated and the area will be safe for a while. His companion notices his pale complexion and asks if he is all right. Tak reassures her, stating that he is simply tired from the ordeal. Suddenly, Noel appears, bowing deeply with a bright smile. She offers her heartfelt thanks and invites them to rest for the night as a token of her gratitude, an offer that catches Tak by surprise. She insists, pointing out the long distance to the capital and warning that it would be a nuisance for everyone if he collapsed from overexertion. Leash agrees with the sentiment, and Mao enthusiastically exclaims that she wants to stay. Her argument made, Noel pauses, a thoughtful expression crossing her face as she considers the arrangement. Later, as Tak rests on the floor, one of the young girls places a flower on his leg. Noel, watching from a nearby chair, asks why he isn't resting properly, mentioning she's been curious about the clothes he first arrived in. She then points to a hole in her own chest plate, asking if the hole in his chest is similar and declaring it to be quite stylish. Tak can only stare back, completely baffled by her question. Following this, she leads him to a table with various tools laid out. She instructs him to grab the tools and dig. Holding a small vial, Tak questions her strange command, asking if he is meant to dig with it. He watches as Noel examines his gear with a magnifying glass, seemingly finding nothing out of the ordinary. As he looks on, the sister approaches from behind, quietly asking him if there's anyone he likes. Startled by her question, he frantically tries to shush her. The sister, however, continues with a knowing smile, suggesting that since they all live together with the children, perhaps Noel is his destined partner. Meanwhile, in the bathhouse, Noel stretches happily in the warm water under the night sky, exclaiming how wonderful it feels. Leash sits beside her, also enjoying the relaxing soak. In another part of the house, Tak carefully dries Mao's hair. She tells him how nice it feels, mentioning it's been a long time since she's had a proper bath. Back in the bath, Noel asks Leash if she's sure it's all right for her to be there. She confidently states that even if some old man showed up, they're stronger and would have nothing to fear, leaving Leash speechless. Leash gently advises her that she should be a little more suspicious of people. Noel dismisses the concern, thinking Leash is too kind, and muses that someone who is easily taken advantage would be a plus for her master. The word master catches Leash's attention. Now out of the bath, she turns to Tak and Mao, asking what Noel meant. Both look back at her, completely confused by the question. Just then, Noel appears from the bath, wrapped in a towel. She explains that she has several goals for her journey, and one of them is to find a talented master. Leash is amazed, while Mao blushes at the mature-sounding declaration. She then steps directly in front of Tak, her gaze fixed intently on him. He stammers, completely taken aback by her sudden and close approach. Pointing at him, she declares her theory. The old man's ability is likely that of an enchanter or perhaps a reinforcement mage. Tak raises his hands defensively, utterly bewildered by her conclusion. He stared back, confused by the term. From behind a curtain, Noel clarified the distinction. An enchanter semi-permanently imbues items with mana's blessing, whereas a reinforcement mage provides a temporary boost to physical abilities or item effects. She then addressed him as Takuma, citing the improved precision of his mana-visible U and the existence of highly effective recovery medicine as evidence for her theory. As he struggled to understand, Mao suddenly appeared, emphatically agreeing with Noel. Tak quickly refuted the idea, insisting that he possessed no mana and was incapable of using magic. The girls gathered around him, their gazes expectant. Leash pointed out that it's typically impossible to use the mana from a magic stone without possessing some of one's own. A flustered Tak then asked if that meant he could use magic if he had a magic stone. She confirmed that it was possible, though highly inefficient. Leash elaborated that it would take about 1,000 slime magic stones just to create a single, small fireball. The realization seemed to dawn on him with a hint of disappointment. Leash grew thoughtful, finding his inability to generate mana from nothing unheard of. She speculated that his amnesia might be the root cause, her curiosity piqued by the activation conditions and other variables at play. He asked her to explain what she meant. In response, she placed a hand on his arm, and a glowing, star-shaped seal materialized on the back of his hand. Startled, he stared at the mark and asked what it was. She explained that it was merely a toy seal from a tool shop, designed to glow in reaction to mana. Noel listened, intrigued by the revelation. Delighted, Leash declared that it looked fun and that she wanted one as well. Her own hand, now adorned with a similar seal, began to sparkle brightly, much to her and Mao's excitement. He looked down at the glowing mark on his own hand, and a thought struck him with sudden clarity. The glowing seal meant only one thing. His ability had just been activated. He listened as Leash, her cheeks flushed, laid out her reasoning. She explained that he seemed promising for the future and easy to handle, making him a prime candidate to be her future husband. He responded, mentioning something about being a boyfriend candidate. He then brought up a peculiar belief, that for an older man like himself, a kiss would reveal if someone was their fated person. Leash, however, steered the conversation back to their original topic. Taking his words as her cue, she closed the distance between them. Leash pressed her lips against his, her hand resting gently on his chest as she initiated a deep kiss. As Noel watches with wide-eyed shock, Leash leans in and kisses a stunned, accused Takuma. She pulls back with a smirk, asking him if he feels any different, dismissing it as just a kiss from an old woman. Takuma, flustered, questions her casual attitude, but she retorts that he should be happier about kissing a beautiful girl. In that moment, a brilliant column of light erupts from Leash, lifting her into the air. The force of the sudden transformation sends Takuma and Noel stumbling backward in astonishment. Suspended within the glow, she looks down at her own hands in confusion, shouting, "What is this?" From behind a curtain, Noel and another elf woman stare, completely bewildered. The light fades to reveal not Leash, but the goddess in a new, radiant form. She points at Takuma, asking if that was his first kiss, and playfully scolding him for making a goddess wait. Her sudden appearance leaves Leash and Noel speechless. Leash stammers in disbelief, realizing she's a goddess, while Noel comes to the conclusion that this must be Takuma's fated person. The goddess gives a cheerful thumbs up, declaring that it feels wonderful. Below her, Takuma is completely overwhelmed, his face flushed and his teeth clenched in utter confusion. She throws her arms wide, joyfully proclaiming that they must carefully nurture the threads of their two destinies. Takuma shouts back, demanding to know what she means. Leash, however, begins praying fervently, hoping this divine connection will increase rare item drops and grant her a longer life, adding that Noel will surely become a fine wife. As he clutches his head, trying to make sense of it all, the goddess explains that his search for a fated person was taking too long, so she secretly added a divine blessing to help him along. She winks, revealing the nature of her gift, a divine protection known in his world as Lucky Sukebe, which will cause him to have more frequent encounters with women. She asks if that rings any bells, as Leash looks on with rapt attention. She fades with a smile, telling Takuma she looks forward to their next meeting. He shouts back that she's spouting nonsense, while Leash blushes in embarrassment and Mao looks on, confused. Her form dissolves into motes of light, a serene expression on her face as she vanishes completely, leaving a puzzled Mao behind. With her gone, the room falls quiet. Takuma mutters that she just said what she wanted and left. Leash, flustered, insists that calling it a divine blessing is a huge misunderstanding. Her fluster grows as she stammers about the kiss and the goddess, thinking it's all too much to handle. From outside the building, Takuma calls out, asking if Leash is all right and telling her to get a grip. Sometime later, the group departs from the orphanage. The sister and the children gather outside to wave them goodbye. As they walk away, Mao waves back with cheerful energy, shouting her goodbyes. Takuma also waves, but a backward glance reveals a look of concern. His concern seems directed at Noel, who walks with a sour expression. She complains to the group, annoyed that they left the large magic stone they found, part of their reward, at the facility. She turns on Takuma, her frustration boiling over. She argues that there are still roadside magic stones left, and they didn't even need to leave Noel's share behind. She declares that he's the only villain in this scenario, especially after she'd been trying to improve his opinion of her. Her tirade continues, lamenting that her skills aren't being showcased, which creates a disparity between them. Moreover, she feels cleaning the cave was pointless if the children get all the credit. Leash looks on, mortified, as Takuma listens silently. In response to her outburst, Takuma simply reaches over and pats her on the head. The unexpected, gentle gesture catches Noel completely off guard, silencing her as a blush spreads across her face. From his perch, Mao looks down, questioning the act. Her flustered state is cut short as their path is suddenly blocked by armored figures. A commanding voice rings out, ordering the four of them to halt. Takuma, holding Mao close, questions if the order is for them, while Leash calmly identifies their interceptors as the Royal Knights. In an instant, the Knights move with practiced efficiency, completely surrounding Takuma and his companions and cutting off any chance of escape. They stand frozen, their expressions a mixture of shock and confusion. The lead knight issues a stern warning. Stay quiet and offer no resistance if they wish to avoid harm. Complying with the order, they are marched through the streets, the rhythmic clank of armored boots echoing against the stone. Their journey ends abruptly with the harsh clang of a closing gate. They find themselves locked within a stone cell. Takuma is still protectively holding Mao as Noel stares in disbelief. She turns to Takuma, her voice filled with frantic disbelief, demanding to know why they were captured. She questions if he did something to cause trouble in the city, but he dismisses the idea, reasoning that it must be a case of mistaken identity. Beside them, Mao begins to cry. Their tense exchange is interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. An elf clad in ornate armor stops before their cell, his gaze cold. He addresses them as lowly kidnappers, informing them with chilling certainty that they should not expect to leave this place alive. An elf knight in ornate armor leads Q's Takuma, Noel, and Mao toward a prison cell. He addresses them as lowly kidnappers, warning them not to expect to leave this place alive. The knight's fury intensifies as he summons a ball of fire into his palm, declaring that the crime of kidnapping his sister is worthy of 10,000 deaths. At this display of power, Noel yelps in fear, clutching Mao for protection. Q's Takuma, startled, questions the mention of his sister and suddenly realizes that Leash is missing from their group. He calls out to the knight, asking if the sister he's referring to is Leash. The elf's composure shatters. Roaring for Q's Takuma not to speak her name so casually, he smashes his fist into the nearby stone wall, shattering it and sending dust flying. From a distance, two other adventurers watch the scene unfold. The young man urges caution, stating that their guilt isn't confirmed and that killing them would be a grave sin. His female companion sighs, remarking that their leader is going into berserk mode again. Meanwhile, Noel tearfully protests that she's not a kidnapper. Q's Takuma tries to interject, but the elf knight ignores him, his attention fixed on Mao. He menacingly asks if Q's Takuma dared to lay a hand on his sister. Her innocent response catches him completely off guard. Mao simply asks if he means touching his sister. The elf knight stares, momentarily stunned into silence, as Q's Takuma and Noel look on in disbelief. He internally questions if she can possibly be serious. She continues without a hint of guile, explaining that she did touch Leash's chest, and it was wonderful. She then offers to show him just once, since Taku taught her it's wrong to touch without permission. The elf knight, now flustered, insists that he isn't angry with her. His confusion instantly turns back to rage as he grabs Q's Takuma by the collar. He demands to know if this man was the one who touched his sister. Mao clarifies that she made Taku touch her as well. A terrified Q's Takuma realizes he's going to have to apologize for this. He stammers an apology, hand held awkwardly behind his head, as Mao peeks out from behind his leg, wondering what's going on. The apology falls on deaf ears. The elf knight, his face a mask of fury, gathers a sphere of dark energy in his palm and roars for his foe to return to the earth. A powerful force erupts from the knight, sending Q's Takuma stumbling backward with a cry of alarm, his arms thrown up defensively. The confrontation is suddenly interrupted by a familiar voice. Leash has arrived, expressing surprise at finding Takuma's group there. Her brother, the knight, turns to face her, shocked, while Takuma looks on helplessly from behind newly formed bars. She quickly explains the situation, insisting to her brother that Takuma and the others are her traveling companions. Leash adds that they have permission from the king to open the gate, a revelation that brings a wave of relief to the imprisoned Takuma. With the misunderstanding resolved, the group is escorted down a grand, sunlit corridor. Mao marvels at the sparkling, spacious hall as Leash informs them that the king has summoned them, prompting Takuma to wonder about the reason. As they walk, the elf knight introduces himself as Fornax, captain of the First Knight Order of Wangul. He apologizes for his earlier behavior, admitting that he becomes heated when matters concern his sister. His apology is met by Mao, who cheerfully declares how much she likes Leash. A smiling Fornax tells her she can call him Fall and doesn't need to be so formal, remarking on her bravery for being so small. Noel then introduces herself as a dwarf studying mana imbuement, noting Fornax's handsome features. Fornax's attention, however, turns to Takuma. He notes that his sister seems to like people of his profession, but then coldly states that while his name is Fornax, he will not forgive Takuma. Before the tension can escalate, Leash appears with a bright smile, explaining that she was being cautious and that Takuma's group protected her all the way to the capital. She thanks Takuma for keeping her sister safe. Despite her words, Fornax clicks his tongue, his expression hardening as he continues to regard the man with deep suspicion. As they follow the knight, Noel whispered to Raiga that while Fornax had a handsome face and high rank, his personality was like a flawed property, a basement unit, to be precise. Raiga quietly agreed, admitting he understood his sister's feelings on the matter. He led them onto a large, circular platform. With a soft hum, the floor began to move, lifting them upwards through a wide, open-air shaft. As it ascended, Leash gasped in delight, marveling at the moving floor. Mao shared her wonder. Leash then pointed towards the open air, exclaiming how beautiful the view was becoming. The platform rose above the city walls, revealing the breathtaking vista of the royal capital, Wangul. Buildings with pointed roofs climbed the hillside, all leading to the grand castle that crowned the summit. Leash turned to Takuma, welcoming him to the castle town. She expressed her hope that he would find the green and peaceful country of Wangul relaxing. Meanwhile, Noel teased Raiga, wondering aloud how a country bumpkin could be so surprised by the sight when he was part of the First Knight Order. Takuma, however, seemed unable to hide his own astonishment. In the city streets, Raiga watched a column of cloaked figures march past, wondering aloud if they were the Knight Order. He was gone in an instant. Q's Takuma waved after the boy, realizing Raiga had left with the First Knight Order. Noel commented that she had thought the area was still safe. Meanwhile, within the castle, two figures stood before a grand throne in a vast, silent hall. The monarch sat with a stern, imposing expression, a heavily armored knight standing vigilantly at his side. Before this powerful presence, Q's Takuma knelt, overwhelmed by the king's aura and reminding himself to be on his best behavior. The solemnity was shattered when Mao darted forward, cheerfully greeting the king as uncle and announcing herself as Leash bodyguard. A flustered Takuma scrambled to apologize for her forwardness. The king, however, did not react with anger. Instead, he erupted in hearty laughter, bidding them to raise their heads. Holding a confused Mao, Takuma listened as the king explained he'd heard about Leash's journey and her helper, expressing overwhelming gratitude for their assistance. Takuma was stunned, realizing the king was surprised that Leash, who seemed like a goddess, had received a divine oracle. The king's composure then broke completely, tears of relief streaming down his face as he confessed how worried he had been. Leash explained to her companions that the king had been anxious about her since she was a child. She apologized for causing him such distress, admitting that her first journey was so stimulating she got sidetracked. The king turned away with a grimace, muttering that she was creepy. She cheerfully explains that the king is an old acquaintance, as he and her mother were friends who often played together. She recalls that even when she was small, he would affectionately tell her she was creepy. Takuma observes their close bond while Fall stands by, his expression unreadable. The king interrupts his own train of thought, stating he has digressed. He turns his attention to Takuma, asking if he is aware of the purpose of Leash travels. Takuma confirms that he is, to assist the savior who has departed from their homeland. He continues, admitting he was anxious when he learned she had received a divine message and embarked on her quest, and is now relieved to see her safe. He then reveals a startling piece of information. The savior had already arrived in the capital ahead of them. Leash reacts with wide-eyed shock, repeating the title in disbelief. He elaborates that this savior had high aspirations, foregoing a public appearance to the people and immediately announcing their departure to the next country to begin their quest against the demon lord. Leash listens, her expression turning somber at the news. Fall then steps forward, informing Takuma that the Second Night Order will now take charge of safely escorting the savior's sister. Takuma looks on, caught off guard by the declaration. Hearing this, Leash grabs onto Takuma's arm, her face filled with sorrow as she asks if this means they must part ways. He gently reminds her that she has a duty to attend to, though he acknowledges her recent and frequent clashes with the demon tribe. Overhearing their exchange, Fall interjects with a proposal. He explains that the First Night Order has already been sent to a village near the border. Therefore, he suggests the Second Night Order should remain at the castle, allowing Takuma and his companions to continue as Leash protectors. He then turns directly to the king, loudly questioning the decision. Fall vehemently objects to entrusting the princess to a man of unknown background. The king, calmly reviewing a document, confirms the situation and states that he has already commissioned a trusted party to conduct an urgent investigation. The king then addresses his niece directly. While he concedes that Takuma's origins are a mystery, he points out that his journey has been without suspicious incident and includes the notable achievement of defeating an A-rank demon beast. He believes it is best for Leash to continue gaining experience by her own efforts and asks for her opinion. Overcome with joy, she clenches her fist and thanks him profusely. Her companions watch her reaction. The king smiles, observing that she has found good friends, and encourages her to enjoy her travels for the time being. Despite the king's decision regarding her, Fall vehemently objects. He shouts that the king is being far too lenient, knowing full well that Leash is a naive elf with a fondness for humans. He questions why the god of salvation would choose her as a companion, suspecting an ulterior motive from the man she wishes to travel with. He declares his absolute opposition to the arrangement. His outburst draws the attention of the entire party. Leash, concerned, asks if he's all right and offers him water, but Noel points out that's not the issue. Mao defends Takuma, insisting he isn't like that. Raiga adds that when he learned Leash was leaving, he had to stop the commander from deserting his post to chase after her. He even grabs the king by his robes, shouting his name in desperation. The king, already weary, grows more anxious at Fall's insistence, picturing a scale where his worries for the journey far outweigh any potential enjoyment. His focus then shifts to Leash. Grabbing her by the shoulders, he insists that neither his intentions nor the facts of the situation have changed. He simply cannot entrust her to Takuma. Leash flushes, overwhelmed by his intensity. He then turns to Takuma, his expression resolute. Placing a hand on the young man's shoulder, Fall declares his intention. He will challenge Takuma to a match, with the winner earning the right to accompany Leash. The sudden challenge leaves Takuma speechless. From the doorway, another knight sternly reminds Fornax to hold his tongue, as the king's decision has already been made. He ignores the warning, turning back to the king to plead his case. The monarch sighs, acknowledging that Fall is stubborn once he's made up his mind. He laments that his brother is too soft, but seems to be considering the proposal. After a moment of thought, the king relents. He agrees to permit the match, much to Fall's delight and Takuma's shock. However, the king adds a condition. It will be a handicapped match, as a new adventurer cannot be expected to face the knight commander on even terms. Fall readily agrees, stating that was his intention all along. He immediately protests, declaring the match impossible. Leash, however, gazes at him with unwavering faith, reassuring him that since it's him, everything will be all right. Noel quietly wonders if Takuma has it in him to betray such pure trust. Nearby, Raiga questions Fall, asking if it isn't uncool to propose a handicap match. Fall retorts that he is willing to cast aside his own pride for the sake of his sisters. Raiga remains unimpressed, muttering that the commander is, in fact, super uncool. He stared down Takuma with a cold smirk, declaring that if he beat him to a pulp right in front of Leash, she would finally come to her senses. The weight of the situation crashed down on Takuma, who realized the immense responsibility he now carried. Meanwhile, Mao, oblivious to the danger, grabbed his arm and cheered him on with all her might. At the Vanbell Castle training grounds, Fall, clad in ornate armor, points his sword at Q's Takuma. He proposes a wager. The winner of their match will be the one to travel with his sister, Leash. He offers a handicap, stating that if Takuma can make him drop his sword, it will be Takuma's victory. With a sneer, Fall adds that Takuma is free to use any dirty tricks he can think of, as it would only serve to disillusion Leash. Takuma remains silent as his companions watch from the sidelines. Noel expresses her concern to Leash, stating that Takuma will surely lose. Leash calmly replies that while she agrees with Noel's assessment of the situation, she is fine with the match itself. Nearby, Mao cheers for Takuma to do his best. Leash then turns to him, her face beaming with confidence. She declares that with the handicap Fall offered, she is certain Takuma will win. Mao chimes in, promising to cheer for Tak as well. She leans in close, whispering that if he wins, she might give him a kiss as a reward. Noel quickly shushes her, reminding her that they are deciding an important travel companion with this match. Leash wonders aloud if this is truly an appropriate way to settle the matter. Her thought trails off as she blushes. Back in the arena, Takuma grips his wooden club, resolving to fight with all his strength. Across from him, Fall smirks, confident in his superior weapon, and deciding to first observe his opponent's movements. An official overseeing the duel sighs with exasperation before tossing a marker to the ground and shouting for the match to begin. In a flash, Fall closes the distance, his speed utterly overwhelming. He brings his sword down in a powerful arc that Takuma barely manages to parry with his club. Fall notes that his reaction wasn't bad, but questions how he'll handle what comes next. He pulls back slightly, and a swirling vortex of energy begins to form in his open palm. From his hand, Fall unleashes a powerful blast of wind that slams into Takuma, sending him flying backward across the training ground. He struggles to his feet, clutching his jaw in disbelief. He realizes that Fall's attack, the flame sword, was no ordinary strike, and wonders if his opponent is even taking this duel seriously. The elf warrior smirks, announcing his intent to increase the number of attacks. With a simple gesture, he conjures dozens of small fireballs that hover in the air. Takuma stares, dumbfounded, noting that all he has to defend himself is a single wooden stick. He then directs the volley of fire towards Takuma, who braces himself and desperately swings his stick to deflect the incoming projectiles. The barrage forces him to his knees. From the sidelines, Leash and Mao cry out his name in alarm. Takuma pants, astounded that he survived the assault and questioning just how much power Fall is holding back. He rises once more as Fall approaches, who coldly asks why his sister would ever want to travel with someone so weak. His expression hardens as he looks Takuma in the eye, declaring with absolute certainty that he is incapable of protecting her. The harsh words leave Leash speechless. Nearby, Noel tells Takuma to get up, suggesting he should just prostrate himself and beg for forgiveness. Mao, meanwhile, panics beside her. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Raiga, who remarks that he's stumbled upon something interesting. He notes the overwhelming difference in power, adding that Takuma doesn't seem to have noticed. He explains his presence in the capital is a mere coincidence. Mao, however, ignores the commentary and shouts encouragement, telling Takuma to get up and beat Fall with his stick. Overhearing her, Takuma grimaces and promises to do his best. He remains kneeling, admitting to himself that he knew this would be a one-sided match. Just then, Leash speaks, her hands clasped earnestly. She tells Takuma she wants to travel with him and the others just a little longer, assuring him that she has not forgotten her mission to aid the Holy Mage. She explains that the limited time she has left to spend with Takuma before they must merge has been a joy. It was her own selfishness, she admits, that led him into this difficult situation, reminding him that the journey to face the Demon Lord was never meant to be a carefree one. Her words strike a chord within him. He realizes that her selfish wish is one he is determined to grant. His expression hardens with resolve. His change in demeanor is not lost on Fall, who notes the shift in his opponent's eyes. Unimpressed, Fall declares that the situation remains unchanged as he ignites his blade with magical fire. He lunges forward, roaring for the fight to continue, his flaming sword cutting through the air. Takuma braces himself, meeting the fiery assault with his own weapon. The clash sends a shockwave of energy across the arena. Locked in a contest of strength, Takuma grits his teeth, channeling all his power to push his opponent back. As their struggle reaches its peak, a deafening explosion from outside the Colosseum walls shatters the air, forcing Takuma's attention away from the duel. He looks toward the source of the sound, his expression one of pure confusion. Fall, too, pauses, his gaze fixed in the same direction. The duel is instantly forgotten as a knight appears on the ramparts, shouting for a status report. He urgently relays that multiple demonic figures have breached the northern outer wall, commanding the second knight order to respond and the third to defend the castle town. His words are confirmed by the sight of a monstrous, one-eyed plant creature that has just torn through the stone fortifications, its tendrils lashing out. As the monstrous plant-like creature loomed, Fall seized Takuma's arm, ordering him to stand back. He declared that the demon was their responsibility and that Takuma should wait with his sister. He turned, bewildered, to see Leash and the others nearby. She voiced her disbelief that something could break through the castle's reinforcements, while Takuma questioned why they hadn't evacuated. As he began to run, concerned for the safety of the city's inhabitants, Leash explained the situation. She assured him that the residential areas were protected by a mana barrier, but conceded that its effectiveness waned against high-level demons. She added that there had been an increase in demon sightings in the area lately. Her words were cut short as she spotted the creature rampaging through a nearby street. "There it is," she cried out, pointing towards the chaos. Across the square, Fall stood firm against the beast, ignoring the desperate calls of Noel and Raiga. A sphere of intense energy formed in his hands as he invoked the spirit of flame, preparing to unleash a devastating attack. He thrust his hands forward, unleashing the spell, Flame Arrow. A torrent of crimson energy bolts rained down upon the demon, engulfing it in a blinding explosion. As the plant-like demon beast is held in place, Fall gathers a brilliant orb of energy. A nearby knight shouts for his captain to stop, recognizing the spell as that of a fire spirit. He then unleashes the attack, declaring it a sacrifice as he casts Crimson Rain of arrows. A volley of fiery projectiles converges on the beast, engulfing it in a devastating explosion. The overwhelming power leaves nothing behind. The creature dissolves into shimmering particles. Watching from a distance with Mao, Q's Takuma realizes the orb of fire he'd been given was merely a feint, a simple bit of misdirection. As the group observes the aftermath, Noel approaches Takuma. She insists that Fall never truly intended to hurt him, pointing out that he even provided recovery medicine. She believes his actions were only meant to keep Takuma in check. Her words are cut short when Mao suddenly grabs Takuma, her expression urgent. She exclaims that she hears a scream and that someone is in trouble, pleading for him to come with her. Takuma, taken aback, questions what he could possibly do to help. Before he can process her words, she demonstrates her meaning. With shocking strength, Mao hoists a nearby young man into the air. As Leash and Noel shout for them to wait, Raiga urges them to follow, and Leash agrees. As they vanish into the streets, Leash and Noel give chase, wondering aloud where the pair could have gone so quickly. Their haste is justified, for elsewhere, a young boy cries for help. A massive, crested snake looms over him and two other children, its head lowered menacingly. Just as the creature looms over the terrified children, Mao descends from above, slamming the man she carried head first into the giant snake with tremendous force. Raiga watches the impact from a distance, his eyes wide with shock. The impact leaves the massive snake stunned on the ground. The man, surprisingly unharmed, checks on the children while thanking Mao. Just then, Leash and Noel arrive, astonished to find a real demon beast. Leash urges everyone that they must hurry. She doesn't pause, launching herself through the air with a powerful kick aimed directly at the stunned serpent. Her attack connects with a thunderous impact. From the sidelines, Raiga cries out Takuma's name in alarm, watching the small girl confront the massive beast. He looks down at his hand in surprise, realizing he has caught a small, glowing object. A grunt of effort escapes him as he secures his grip, a look of astonishment on his face. Before he can process what he's holding, the giant snake recovers, unleashing a dark sphere of energy that hurtles through the street. Takuma sprints away from the blast. He glances back, panicked, questioning how he could possibly defend against a thunder orb with such a small item, especially with a building directly behind him. Just then, Leash appears at his side, declaring firmly that she will be the one to block the attack. She moves swiftly in front of him, thrusting her hand forward to conjure a shimmering, crystalline barrier just as the sphere of dark energy makes contact. The barrier holds firm against the blast. As the energy dissipates, Noel rushes onto the scene, praising Leash for the impressive magic barrier, noting it's just what she'd expect from an elf skilled in magic. Takuma, visibly relieved, expresses his gratitude, acknowledging that Leash saved him. She lets out a quiet sigh of relief, murmuring to herself that it went well. In the distance, Takuma can be seen atop a building, having used the opportunity to get to a higher vantage point and call for help. He rejoins the group, reporting that he has sent a signal for reinforcements and that they just need to hold on until help arrives. His relief is short-lived. However, as Mao points out that the creature is preparing another lightning attack, its scales crackling with energy. The dark orb crackles with power directly above the serpent's head. Mao urgently calls out for Leash to hurry and join her, to which Leash quickly agrees. With the giant snake's attack imminent, Leash focuses her energy, calling upon the spirits of the wind to transform into a protective shield, a wind wall. Her companions, Takuma, Noel, and Mao, stand ready behind her, their expressions a mixture of tension and anticipation as she prepares the defensive spell. She falters, however, flushing with embarrassment as she internally admits that she is not very skilled with magic. The realization dawns on her that this is a terrible time for such a weakness to surface. Her hesitation proves costly as the snake's dark energy orb closes in. The group cries out in alarm, and Takuma realizes she won't have time to recast the spell. Reacting instantly, he lunges forward and pulls Leash back into his arms, away from the point of impact. Her eyes widen in surprise at his sudden, protective action. He shields her with his body as a massive, rune-etched shield materializes out of thin air, intercepting the dark energy and deflecting the blast completely. Held safely in Takuma's arms, Leash stares at the powerful barrier in disbelief, exclaiming how amazing it is. From a nearby vantage point, Raiga watches as the giant snake's tail slams into the ground where the group was standing, its attack rendered completely ineffective. He is joined by Noel, who rushes to his side to check if he is okay. Another adventurer with them expresses his relief, and Raiga confirms that the rampaging demon beast was the last of them. Later, reunited in a safe room, the rescued man thanks Takuma's party. The moment of peace is shattered by Raiga, who furiously confronts an unseen individual, berating them for putting his sister in such grave danger. He furiously confronts the armored elf, Fornax, demanding to know why he was so late. Noel calls out Fornax's name, attempting to intervene, but the stoic elf remains silent, his expression unreadable. While the tension lingers, the rescued townspeople gather around the others. Leash thanks Takuma for protecting them, and a local man, with his children at his side, expresses his awe and gratitude for the knight's timely arrival. As Raiga and Fornax begin to depart, the young elf glances back at Takuma. He remarks that if he hadn't shown up, they would have been in danger, then adds that he's been watching the training of the castle, leaving Takuma to wonder if they've met before. His confusion is interrupted by Noel, who posits that the protective shield was likely Takuma's own power, not Leash magic. She explains that she saw a seal glow, but admits that with all the buffs on Takuma, it's hard to be sure. The revelation stuns Takuma, who questions if the power was truly his. Seeing his bewildered state, Leash approaches with concern, asking if he's exhausted. He reassures her that he's fine, but Raiga suggests it would be wise for him to rest a little. Takuma agrees. Elsewhere, within the stone halls of the castle, the king stands beside a man with long, light hair and spectacles. They gaze down into a large, circular font filled with still water, its surface reflecting the dim light of the chamber. He breaks the silence, speaking of recent reports about a person of unusual attire who has appeared in town. The king notes that eyewitness accounts are inconsistent, often placing the stranger at a tavern, and finds it presumptuous for such a commoner to speak of divine oracles. He continues, revealing that there is something even more concerning than this mysterious individual, the young girl of an unknown race who accompanies him. As he speaks, Mao looks up with a pure, trusting gaze, unaware that she is the subject of royal scrutiny. Crouching nearby, Raiga watches Mao with astonishment. She performs push-ups with a duplicate of herself resting on her back, her expression determined. He remarks on her incredible strength, questioning if she's truly a demon. Mao confidently declares that it's easy for her. He then boasts about his own training, proudly announcing to Takuma that he and Fall complete 100 sit-ups and 100 sword swings every day. Mao, now on her feet, chimes in that she has also been studying how to use weapons and how to take a blow. To demonstrate her newfound agility, she executes a quick somersault on the ground. She lands perfectly, striking a cheerful pose with her arms thrown wide. Raiga exclaims how cute she is, and Takuma agrees that while it was just a simple flip, she certainly has plenty of motivation. His companion then turns to him, asking if humans are considered adults at 25 years old. Takuma confirms this, prompting Raiga to note that it must be difficult to grow stronger after that age. Takuma quietly reflects that, for him, he feels he has no choice but to keep improving. He continues his internal monologue, recalling Noel mentioning he was a mana enhancement master. He doesn't quite understand the ability, but it seems to activate unconsciously, without his direct input. As Mao continues her sword practice nearby, Raiga voices concern. He points out that while the Demon Lord threatens world peace, the people in Leash country don't seem to feel any sense of crisis. He wonders aloud if they should hurry to find the savior. He adds that Leash wasn't raised in the Elven country. This information gives Takuma pause, as he realizes the Elven nation maintains a neutral stance in the war between the Allied forces and the Demon Lord's army. He mulls this over. The Demon Lord's territory is far from here, so the threat isn't felt directly. He reasons that the Demon Lord's army must not be attacking indiscriminately, otherwise people would feel the danger even while traveling. His impression of the Demon Lord is turning out to be quite different from what he'd imagined. Just then, Leash peeks around a nearby corner. She calls out, asking to continue with the 100 sword swings and announcing that she has already finished her 200. She and her companions, Mao and Raiga, arrive at a bustling tavern as dusk settles. Inside, a large wolfman enjoys a drink at a barrel table. The group steps into the lively establishment, filled with adventurers and patrons. The air is thick with chatter as people gather around tables in the bar. Settling in, Leash takes a sip of her drink, declaring it delicious. Nearby, Noel pores over a book on mana enhancement, observing the other patrons. She notes the presence of a vice captain and another man with impressive mana capacity and magical skill. One of the armored men, observing Leash, seems concerned that she is drinking alcohol. The armored man leans in, telling Leash she mistakenly drank juice and asks with concern if she can handle alcohol. As Leash blushes slightly, Noel, looking up from her studies, requests a glass of milk. Her request is interrupted as Raiga spots cues Takuma and Mao arriving. He calls out a cheerful greeting, offering Takuma a drink of water. Takuma appears weary, while Mao stands beside him. In the background, Leash sways unsteadily. He gratefully accepts the water. Raiga remarks that daily consistency is what matters most. Mao chimes in enthusiastically, saying their secret training was very enjoyable and that she might now be stronger than an ordinary knight. Hearing her claim, the armored man approaches and gently pats Mao's head. He encourages her, stating that with more combat experience, she will become even stronger. He affirms that earning such praise from Raiga means she is already truly powerful. Mao accepts his words with a happy blush. Noel then turns to her, explaining her own duty to protect the citizens of the country. She formally asks for the assistance of both Mao and her elder sister figure, Leash. With a bright, determined expression, Mao accepts the request without hesitation. Nearby, the armored man warns Takuma not to hold his sister back, much to Takuma's surprise. His composure breaks as he shouts in frustration, questioning how the captain could allow his sister to travel with a strange man. He claims he has unfinished business from the demon beast subjugation and cannot leave. His companions laugh, telling him to stop making excuses and just admit he wants to go because he's interested in her sister. Flustered, Fall stammers as he addresses Takuma, asking if he can entrust his sister to his care. From the side, an amused Leash questions his overly dramatic phrasing, causing her brother to blush even more deeply. He then bows his head, formally apologizing for his previous behavior and asking Takuma to please look after his sister. With the request made, he turns to Leash and tells her it's time to go to her room. She, however, remains frozen in place, her eyes squeezed shut and her face bright red with embarrassment. Seeing her state, Takuma takes charge, gently tugging her by the back of her cloak to get her moving as he announces they are leaving. As he leads the still flustered Leash away, Raiga and Noel shout from the table, telling him they will keep the captain, Fall, occupied and that he should hurry to the room. Once in the quiet upstairs hallway, Takuma suggests he can go back downstairs to get Noel for her. She immediately protests, declaring her intent to bathe. In a panicked flurry of words, she asks him to get hot water, then tells him to wait because she's undressing, and finally says to wait while she calls Noel. Her frantic instructions culminate in a tearful plea, begging him not to leave her alone. As Takuma looks on, stunned Mao, who is spying from around the corner, trips and tumbles to the floor. She then suggests that he could help her undress, starting with her skirt. As her hands come up to cover his eyes, the flustered Takuma can only register how ticklish it feels. He somehow manages to complete the task with his eyes shielded. With her outer garments removed, Leash stands before him while Mao, in the background, offers a cheerful thank you for a job well done. Inside a room, Leash relaxes in a bath, her face flushed and a content smile on her lips. Peeking in, Q's Takuma quickly turns away, realizing he must not let her have any alcohol. He instead offers her a glass of water. Now dressed in a simple tunic, Leash sits on the edge of a bed and shyly accepts it, thanking him. Takuma quietly thinks to himself how amazing she is. His mind drifts to how much she has changed. When they first met, she was a stranger, but now she bravely confronts demon beasts and even Fall. He recalls her training diligently with Raiga to become stronger, and a flicker of concern crosses his mind that she might be pushing herself too hard. As if hearing his thoughts, Leash declares with a determined, flushed face that she wants to become even stronger. Takuma tells her he thinks she's plenty strong already, but she replies that hearing him say that makes her happy. She then looks down, confessing that she is actually quite bad at magic. In the Elven Kingdom, the foremost domain of magic, she explains, she is considered a failure. Takuma looks on, surprised by this admission. She continues, her gaze earnest, explaining that watching him try so hard makes her want to improve her own magic. Overcoming the great challenge they faced today made her very happy, and she remembers her desire to help him, her savior, in any way she can. Leash adds that she also enjoys her flail attacks and has started learning many things from the outside world. She heard that people outside the Elven Kingdom have a wide variety of skills and weapons, which she thought was very cool. From behind a wall, Mao peeks out listening. A memory surfaces of a younger Leash with two small children admiring a drawing. She recalls how she came to admire the Castle Knights because they were strong, kind, and protected everyone. She confirms that this is why she grew to like them, and also why she wants to be cool like them. The tender moment is shattered by Fall's sudden, furious appearance in the doorway. He declares it's time for Takuma's goodnight kiss, accusing him of not being sober. With a clenched fist, he shouts that he won't forgive him for this. His rage freezes instantly. Fall's eyes widen in utter shock at something he sees just beyond the frame. Around the corner, Noel also peeks out, her expression mirroring his astonishment. Observing from distance, Noel notes that Takuma hasn't returned and, worried about Leash, she came to check on her. Seeing the situation unfold, she decides that if Leash is truly motivated, she will offer her full support. Inside the room, Leash has cornered Takuma on the bed. He pleads with her to calm down, telling her it's not right to act so forcefully just because she's drunk. Flushed and leaning close, Leash insists that she is not intoxicated. She continues, explaining that she simply let her guard down around Noel. Leash admits that she was embarrassed by her own desire to kiss him. Her gaze softens as she asks if he dislikes the idea of them kissing. Before he can process, she clarifies that it's not about dislike, but something more, and expresses her happiness. Takuma is left speechless by her earnestness. With her feelings laid bare, she closes her eyes and leans forward, pressing her lips against his. The kiss deepens, Takuma's eyes wide with surprise as Leash holds the embrace. Suddenly, their intimate moment is shattered by a brilliant flash of light and a cheerful announcement. A mysterious, ethereal woman appears before them with arms outstretched. She winks playfully at Takuma, addressing him as Tak, and remarking how quickly the second person was found. With a cheerful smile, she declares that it is time for the judgment of fate. As the woman speaks, Leash suddenly goes limp, slumping against Takuma, fast asleep. The newcomer observes this, noting that the child of fate has dozed off. The ethereal woman continues, praising Takuma for finding the second child of fate and playfully asking if it would be going too far to call at her own assistance. Takuma, holding the unconscious Leash, can only stammer in utter confusion. The goddess-like figure continued her pronouncement, a playful smile on her face. She mused that at this rate, demons and even a demon lord could become his brides, calling it a wonderful thing. She urged him to keep trying, assuring him that his connection to her was not yet severed. Her presence vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving Takuma alone in the room with Leash, who had since regained consciousness. She sat on his lap, her face flushed with embarrassment, while he sat stiffly, utterly at a loss for words. He eventually made his way downstairs, where Noel greeted him with a cheerful, "Welcome back, Tak." She glanced at Mao, who was sitting quietly, before asking Takuma if there had been any progress with Leash. Flustered, he quickly insisted that nothing in particular had happened. Noel eyed him with a knowing, teasing smile, pressing him on whether that was really true. He turned his attention to Mao, apologizing for making her wait and suggesting it was time for them to sleep. The young girl simply hummed in quiet agreement. Lifting the sleepy girl onto his back, he began to carry her away. Noel commented that while the earlier commotion had been bad, it seemed the night's farewell party was also quite rowdy. Elsewhere, in the streets of the town, a young elf with two-toned hair and glasses paused. His eyes were fixed on a public notice board, specifically on a poster depicting Mao. He read the notice, his expression unreadable as he murmured, "Demon Lord. Which one could it be?" Peeking over a counter with a penguin plushie, Mao quietly considers what to put inside her new bag: a handkerchief, some money, and a magic stone. She turns to Takuma, joyfully showing off the penguin-themed bag he gave her. She thanks him profusely, saying how cute it is, but also expresses a hint of sadness that she's always receiving things from him and can't do anything in return. Takuma, with Leash beside him, smiles and reassures her that it looks great on her and he's just happy she likes it. Inspired, she announces her desire to try sewing as well. While making proper clothes is beyond her, she wants to create something for Takuma. He asks if she's truly interested in tailoring, and upon her enthusiastic confirmation, he agrees they should give it a try. Her attempt quickly devolves into chaos. Mao cries out that the thread and needle are fighting her, and then yelps in pain, exclaiming that the needle has attacked her. Takuma watches from the side, his expression a mixture of shock and concern. She slumps in defeat, admitting that sewing is far more difficult than she imagined. Takuma kneels beside her, gently asking if she is all right. Suddenly, Noel bursts onto the scene, cheerfully offering Takuma a heavy pouch. He stammers, saying he doesn't have that much money, but she waves it off, telling him not to treat her like a pushy merchant. With that settled, she points at his worn clothes and bluntly tells him to take them off, leaving Mao utterly shocked. Later, as Takuma's clothes soak in a large wooden tub, Mao explains the process. She points out that they have a large quantity of slime, and by processing the fluid from slime materials, one can create an equipment repair jelly. Takuma watches, deeply impressed by the ingenuity. Now wearing a clean shirt, he turns to Noel with a bright, sincere smile. He thanks her, telling her she has been a huge help. Flustered by the direct gratitude, she looks away, murmuring that it was nothing she needed to be thanked for. As Takuma continues to wash his old clothes in the tub, Noel confides in Mao. She acknowledges that Mao helped Takuma in battle, making them even, but admits that she still feels the desire to give him some kind of present. Her words give Mao an idea. She recalls Takuma mentioning he wanted to become a magic user and suggests that Noel could collect some low-rank magic stones as a gift for him. Mao declares with certainty that Takuma would be delighted to receive them. Noel falls silent, thoughtfully considering the suggestion. She's taken aback when Takuma suddenly objects, shouting in protest. He questions the idea of Mao subduing a demon beast alone, pleading with Noel not to allow her to do something so dangerous. Mao, meanwhile, holds up a large plant with a cheerful expression. In response to his outburst, Mao tells Noel they should abandon the idea, noting that it seems to be upsetting Takuma. She adds with a touch of disappointment that she thought it was a good plan. Later, Mao barges into her room, calling out to Leash that she needs to consult with her about something. She finds Leash in the middle of changing, who cries out in surprise at the sudden intrusion. A small messenger penguin stands by, observing the scene. After the initial shock, Leash asks what the matter is. Mao explains her reason for coming. She wants advice on what kind of present to get for Takuma. Leash considers the request, reassuring Mao that Takuma would be happy with any gift from her. Seeing Mao's earnestness, she suggests they go shopping together immediately, an idea which Mao enthusiastically accepts. The two of them head out into a busy marketplace. As they walk, Leash ponders what Takuma might appreciate, wondering aloud if gloves or a hat would be a good choice. Their shopping trip is momentarily diverted when a cheerful beastman vendor at a candy stall calls out a welcome. Leash seems captivated, while Mao's attention is drawn to the array of colorful sweets. They indulge in the treats, both Leash and Mao smiling with delight as they enjoy their respective sweets under a clear sky. The cheerful moment fades as Mao looks down at her small coin purse, her expression turning somber. Behind her, Leash and Takuma can be seen heading into a nearby shop. Inside the equipment store, Mao's quiet disappointment solidifies. She observes to Leash that the clothes and accessories are far too expensive, realizing with a heavy heart that with the money she has, she can only afford to buy him snacks. She stood thoughtfully as Leash inquired about the kind of gift she wanted to give Takuma. Mao hesitated, unsure how to answer. Leash elaborated, suggesting that something he could always wear and use would be a good choice. Mao silently considered this, nodding in agreement. She then admitted with a blush that her original plan was to give him something handmade, but she found it too difficult. Seeing her predicament, Leash leaned in and whispered a new idea into her ear. Leash beamed, declaring the whispered plan to be a wonderful idea. Mao's eyes lit up with renewed hope, and she eagerly suggested they go find Noel immediately, certain she would know how to help them. Sometime later, Mao found Takuma, who greeted her cheerfully, mentioning he was now properly equipped thanks to Noel's help. Gathering her courage, she shyly announced that she had something for him, which caught him by surprise. He looked down as she presented her gift, a handmade necklace fashioned from a polished magic stone. Stunned, he asked if she had truly made it herself. She confessed that she couldn't have done it alone, explaining that Leash and Noel had helped her. Though she felt it wasn't perfectly crafted, she assured him she had poured her heart into it, anxiously hoping he would accept the gift. Overwhelmed by shyness, she covered her face, peeking through her fingers as she urged him to look at it. He fastened the necklace around his neck and smiled warmly, asking if it suited him. Mao's face lit up with pure joy as she replied that it looked wonderful on him. He expressed his sincere gratitude, promising to treasure it always. Overjoyed, Mao urged him to wear it forever. As Leash enthusiastically points toward a shop she thinks Noel would enjoy, Takuma, Mao, and another small girl in a bear hat secretly watch them from behind a corner. Noel then approaches the group, remarking that Takuma and Leash seem to be having fun and pointedly asks if they enjoyed their night. A flustered Takuma insists that nothing happened, while Leash stands off to the side, looking away shyly. He is suddenly pulled into a kiss by Leash. Realizing she likely has no memory of the previous night due to the alcohol, Takuma decides it's best to remain silent about the kiss for now. Nearby, a shocked Mao wonders what has gotten into Noel. Later, at a tavern, Noel is visibly drunk, slurring her words while drinking with other patrons. A concerned Takuma approaches with a glass of water, asking if she is okay. She grabs him, frantically asking about his purpose in the capital. Without waiting for an answer, she begins praising the local shops and their quality, insisting that he forget about the previous night and focus on shopping. Her tirade comes to an abrupt halt as she stops walking in the middle of the street. Takuma, caught off guard by the sudden stop, turns to ask Mao what's wrong. Mao looks up at Noel with a sorrowful expression, asking if she's really going to the capital with them. The young girl realizes that once their shopping is done, they will have to part ways, and the thought of saying goodbye is deeply saddening. In response, Noel sweeps Mao into a tight embrace, exclaiming that she is too cute and must travel with them for a while longer. Takuma watches the emotional display with a gentle smile. She continues, declaring that since Takuma is a candidate for the Demon Lord's army and has no money, she will simply have to earn some alongside him for a while. Mao looks up, delighted, and Takuma happily agrees. Several days later, the group, Takuma, Leash, Noel, and Mao, find themselves in the audience chamber of Van Bell Castle, standing before the king's throne. Inside the throne room, Leash receives her orders. The king explains that the savior is needed in the border town of Carol and that she and her companions are to head there immediately. Leash bows her head slightly, acknowledging the command. Having received their mission, the group prepares to depart. Fornax tells his sister to be careful, then turns to Takuma and formally asks him to look after her. Takuma, flustered by the serious request, questions why Fornax is acting like their family. He is cut short as Leash leans in close, apologizing for ever doubting his character. She praises him as a great man for maintaining his composure around two beautiful women and asks him to continue protecting her from the Demon Lord's influence. Takuma quietly agrees, while Mao muses to herself that her special blowgun darts could make him forget things. As they finally set off, Leash mentions something she heard from him before, suggesting that if they're lucky, they might encounter a dragon. Mao's face lights up with pure excitement at the idea, but Takuma is stunned, repeating the word dragon in disbelief. Noel tempers their excitement, sighing that dragons rarely descend to populated areas and would be a nuisance anyway. She does admit, however, that finding a rare item drop from one would be fortunate. Hearing this, Mao's initial excitement deflates. Her disappointment vanishes in an instant, replaced by fiery resolve. Mao declares that she absolutely wants to meet a dragon and insists that they will visit a dragon village. With their new, unofficial objective in mind, the party waves farewell as they pass through the capital's main gate, officially beginning their journey to the border. Sometime later, while walking along a wooded path, they're offered a ride by a kind man driving a horse-drawn cart. As Leash thanks him, Mao excitedly points out some fruit growing nearby. The cart ride ends at a crossroads. As Takuma helps Mao down from the wagon, a tall, hooded beast man with a large pack walks past, thanking them for the ride as well before continuing on his own path. As dusk settles, the group makes camp around a warm fire. Mao has fallen asleep in Takuma's lap. He asks Leash about their destination, and she explains that Carol is a border town where many different races gather. He continues along the road with Mao perched on his shoulders. Noel excitedly points out that the dragon village is just ahead, but Leash notices a crowd of people gathered, a sense of unease growing. Upon reaching the end of the path, the reason for the delay becomes obvious. A wide chasm separates them from the other side, and the bridge that once spanned it lies in ruins. Noel groans, realizing they'll have to take a long detour to Carol. Leash, however, eyes the scene suspiciously, voicing her thought that someone might be demanding a toll to pass. Her suspicion is immediately confirmed as a winged figure descends before them. He introduces himself as a member of the demon tribe and declares that the toll for passage is their mana. As the others react with alarm, Tak shouts for everyone to run, realizing this is a different kind of demon than he's encountered before. The demon seems unconcerned, stating that chasing those who flee is a bother and tells them to hurry up and run. Just as Tak begins to move, Mao speaks with startling confidence, announcing that she can probably defeat their opponent. She leaps from his shoulders and lands before the demon, ready for a fight. The winged being acknowledges her power, noting that her mana is indeed impressive, and challenges her to a contest of strength. His challenge, however, is a diversion. Dismissing her as weak, he bursts past her with blinding speed, his true target revealed to be Tak. As he closes the distance, he taunts Mao to face him head-on, even as he attacks someone else. Before the demon's attack can connect, a massive blast of fire erupts from the chasm, engulfing him completely. From the depths below, the immense head of a dragon rises into view. Caught within the inferno, the demon turns his head back towards Tak. He issues a final, urgent warning: run, or be devoured next. Tak stands frozen, utterly stunned by the sudden chaos. He watches as the colossal white dragon lands with a ground-shaking thud, its crystalline scales shimmering. It towers over them, an immense and powerful creature that has seemingly dispatched the winged demon in an instant. Its massive head turns, and its gaze falls directly upon him. His eyes widen in sheer disbelief and terror, his mouth agape at the sight of the mythical beast. The dragon lets out a soft, inquisitive sound. Leash, standing beside the stunned Takuma, calmly confirms their observation. It is indeed a dragon. While Takuma stumbles back in a panic, Leash and Noel gaze up at the creature with sparkling eyes, completely captivated by its majestic presence. The dragon lowers its head, and Leash, far from being afraid, expresses her surprise. Takuma, equally surprised but for different reasons, can only stammer in confusion as the dragon gently scoops Leash up in its massive claw. It then proceeds to pick up Noel as well, holding both elves gently. The dragon seems pleased, but Takuma is frantic, shouting that this is a terrible situation and they need to hurry. Mao, however, simply laughs at his distress. Cues Takuma, balanced precariously atop Mao's head, calls out her name in disbelief. The small, horned girl simply puffs out her cheeks with determination. With a sudden, powerful heave, she launches him high into the air. She lands gracefully on the ground below as he continues to tumble helplessly through the sky, his face a mask of dizzy confusion. Without pausing, she breaks into a sprint, dashing past a group of startled adventurers. She deftly catches the still-falling Takuma under one arm and continues her charge across the rocky terrain, leaving the onlookers staring in stunned silence. The adventurers stand frozen, trying to comprehend the spectacle. One of them wonders aloud about the commotion, questioning if a demon and a dragon were truly present. Another remarks on the incredible arm strength and jumping power displayed by the small girl. After carrying him for some distance, Mao finally slows, pointing ahead with excitement. She calls out to the breathless Takuma, announcing that they found a village and asking if anyone has seen their two companions. Before them lies a bustling village carved directly into the cliffside of a mountain range. The streets are filled with people of various races, gathered around large cooking pots and vendor stalls in what appears to be a lively festival. As they navigate the crowded festival, Takuma notes the sheer number of people. Suddenly, Noel's voice cuts through the noise. She has spotted them, calling out to Takuma and Mao with a wide, relieved smile. Beside her, Leash turns, her expression mirroring Noel's surprise and joy. He expresses his relief that they are both safe. As the group reunites, an elderly man leaning on a staff approaches them, accompanied by a bald man in robes. The old man looks at Leash and Noel, noting their attire, and asks Takuma if these two shrine maidens are his companions. He stands bewildered as the old man and the monk express their profound gratitude. They explain that thanks to the shrine maidens, the ceremony can proceed safely, which will surely please the heavenly dragon. Still confused, he questions the term shrine maidens. Noel cheerfully clarifies that the village's guardian dragon has laid an egg for the first time in 10 years, and a ceremony is about to begin in celebration. Leash elaborates, explaining that the ceremony requires shrine maidens, but they had been worried since the bridge's destruction prevented anyone from arriving. The monk, smiling, confirms that with their arrival, the ritual can proceed and gestures for them to follow. The old man's expression turns grave as he speaks of the bridge's collapse. He suspects the demon tribe is active in the area, likely targeting the heavenly dragon. He warns that absorbing a dragon's mana grants immense power and immortality, a prize the demons would surely covet. Hearing this, Mao pipes up from atop Takuma's head, asking if dragons are truly so powerful. Takuma wonders aloud if they are stronger than the demon tribe. Noel confirms this, stating that demons have relentlessly hunted the heavenly dragon for its mana. Leash adds a chilling detail. Highly intelligent demon beasts can even assume human form. The danger doesn't deter Mao, who excitedly proclaims her desire to meet the dragon. However, the old man interjects, explaining that while Leash and Noel are needed for the ceremony, men and children are not permitted to attend. He offers Takuma and Mao a place to wait, causing Mao's enthusiasm to instantly vanish. He pats the dejected girl's head, trying to console her by promising they can enjoy the festival later. As he does, Leash and Noel are led away by the monk to prepare for their roles. The old man guides them into a room dominated by a large, ancient-looking tapestry. Takuma inquires if it depicts the dragon's legend, and the elder confirms it has been passed down through generations. Meanwhile, Mao begins to doze off in his arms. Elsewhere, in a preparation room, Leash holds up a piece of the ceremonial attire, her face flushed with confusion. She confesses to Noel that she has no idea how to wear it. The garment is little more than a strip of cloth. The scene cuts back to Takuma and the old man, who are both stunned into silence as Mao, now wide awake, holds up an identical piece of ceremonial clothing she has apparently discovered. He watched as Leash and Noel were led away by one of the villagers. The old man explained that he would summon the others and that they should wait in a designated room. Mao, however, seemed to finally understand the situation, excitedly remarking that she now knew what kind of clothes they were talking about. Following their guides, the group ascended a long, steep staircase carved into the side of the mountain, flanked by ceremonial banners. Leash and Noel, now changed into white and red shrine maiden attire, walked ahead. The climb culminated in a vast, open-air cavern. There, upon a great stone dais surrounded by crystalline formations, rested a magnificent, white-scaled heavenly dragon. Approaching the colossal beast, Noel announced that they had brought the heavenly dragon some sake. The creature, seemingly understanding, let out a soft, please sound. Their attention then turned to a large nest beside the dragon, where 3 enormous, smooth eggs lay nestled together. Both Noel and Leash looked upon them with expressions of wonder and relief. As the two maidens watched, the heavenly dragon lowered its head and began to drink deeply from the large bowl of sake they had offered. The offering was a success. Noel expressed her happiness that the dragon seemed pleased, hoping the eggs would grow strong. Leash agreed, adding that it was an incredible honor to face a dragon and that she should be proud of such a great benefit. Later, as they walked back through the village, Mao happily chewed on a treat. She recounted how the heavenly dragon sometimes comes to the village to play with the children, expressing a wish that it would visit again while they were there. Takuma, however, seemed preoccupied, his thoughts elsewhere. His contemplation was interrupted when Mao suddenly stopped before a large wooden door. She cocked her head, having heard a sound from within, and wondered aloud if someone was playing hide-and-seek. Without hesitation, he threw the door open. Inside, they found a young elf woman, bound and gagged, kneeling on the stone floor in distress. He stared down at the bound elf, who looked up with a pained expression and explained that she had been locked away by the demon tribe. Upon hearing this, Mao cried out, asking why her older sister was there. She then added that the woman was supposed to be heading to the ceremony, a revelation that left Takuma completely stunned. The captive elf's demeanor shifted entirely. Her look of distress vanished, replaced by a faint, knowing smirk as she gazed up at Leash, who stood just out of sight. Inside a sparse room, Q's Takuma kneels with his hands bound. Before him, the elf woman and Mao are also on their knees. The elf woman explains with a pained expression that demons, disguised as her people, trick them into revealing the secrets of the ritual. She turns to him, her voice filled with urgency, warning him that the ceremony is already underway and they must hurry. Outside, the massive heavenly dragon looks down quizzically at the gathered villagers, questioning its title. At that moment, a ceremonial bowl of wine tips over and falls to the ground. The great beast suddenly recoils, sweat breaking out across its crystalline hide as a wave of sickness washes over it. As the poison takes hold, the elf woman clutches her head. A voice remarks that the toxin is finally working. She looks up in disbelief, questioning why anyone would poison the sacred wine. In that moment of realization, the demon man appears before them, his dark wings spread wide. He announces that this was all a necessary step for him to become a high-ranking demon. He sneers at the group, mocking them for being so easily deceived by the ritual, noting how their taste for wine and women have changed. The demon then turns his attention to the ailing dragon, complaining that because of it, the nearby humans were completely unappetizing and a waste of his time. The dragon can only manage a low growl in response. Refusing to stand by, the elf woman summons a large, spiked mace. She plants herself firmly between the demon and the others, declaring that she will not allow him to do as he pleases. He scoffs at her defiance. With casual ease, he lifts an enormous boulder above his head, remarking that the village below would face a catastrophe if he were to drop it. He adds dismissively that he cares little for the village or the dragon, leaving the elf woman stunned into silence. He declares that he must deal with his nuisance, his gaze falling upon the villagers below, and then adds that the woman there must also be dealt with. His attention is then drawn to a nearby nest. He observes that eggs are born once a certain amount of mana accumulates, and decides he might as well take them. Before he can act, the massive boulder he held aloft is suddenly obliterated by a powerful force. He turns with a click of his tongue, surprised to see the heavenly dragon is still able to move. The great beast glares back defiant. With a mighty swing, the dragon's tail smashes through the last remnants of the rock, shattering it into dust and crystalline fragments. The immense effort proves too much for the poisoned creature, and it lets out a ragged, exhausted breath. Its strength completely spent, the heavenly dragon collapses heavily to the ground as the elf woman watches, unable to help. The demon's expression twists into one of pure fury. Clasping his hands together, he declares them a truly troublesome group of creatures and vows that now they will all die. He inhales deeply and unleashes a torrent of poison breath directly toward the elf woman and Mao, who stand frozen in its path. In that critical moment, Q's Takuma's voice rings out with a desperate command for Mao to throw him in front of everyone. He tumbles through the air, a willing projectile launched directly at the demon's attack. Below, his companions Mao and Leash can only watch in horror, their hands outstretched as if to stop the inevitable. The demon, however, is focused on his own assault, roaring for his Pico-chan to be blown away as he unleashes a swirling vortex of energy. His attack is met by an unexpected sight. He looks up, cursing in confusion as Mao, not Takuma, hurtles directly toward his face. She slams into the demon's head with a cry, the impact creating a small burst of force. The nearby heavenly dragon watches the bizarre event unfold, letting out a questioning growl. The collision sends both Mao and Leash plummeting towards the ground. From above, Takuma shouts a warning, realizing they're falling. Leash desperately tries to calm the panicked Mao, telling her to wait and be patient. They land safely near the other defenders. Mao, recovering quickly, calls out to the group, asking if everyone is all right. The heavenly dragon, now on the ground with them, looks on with a bewildered expression. In response to her earnest question, the massive heavenly dragon is enveloped in a soft light. It shrinks rapidly, transforming into a small, almost plush-looking version of itself, its cheeks flushed in apparent embarrassment or affection. This bizarre transformation pushes the demon over the edge. His face contorts with rage as he glares down at the tiny dragon, vowing to kill every last one of them. The colossal heavenly dragon lets out a deafening roar, its crystalline scales shimmering with power as it confronts the winged demon man. He watches the dragon's energy gather, a look of confusion on his face. He wonders why it's suddenly so full of vigor, admitting to himself that it looks rather impressive. In response, the dragon unleashes a massive torrent of energy from its maw, completely engulfing the demon man in a blinding, destructive light. The blast subsides, revealing that the once mighty dragon has shrunk to a small, almost harmless-looking size. Mao, watching from a safe distance, cheers, exclaiming how amazing, strong, and cool the heavenly dragon is. As the group gathers, the old man addresses the small dragon, surprised that it has already detoxified itself. Q's Takuma looks on, flustered and apologetic, as the dragon seems to offer a gentle smile. His attention then turns to a large, dark egg resting nearby. The old man explains to the elf woman that the poison had been cast upon the egg, and he had intended to tell them to destroy the demon beast within. The small dragon lets out a soft cry. Mao reassures it, noting that while the poison is gone, the egg itself is not viable. She urges everyone to quickly carry it to the village. She and Q's Takuma carefully hold the egg. Mao tells the dragon to leave it to them and get examined. Q's Takuma speaks to the egg, encouraging it to hold on a little longer. As his hand touches the egg's shell alongside Mao's, a brilliant light suddenly flares from the point of contact, startling them both. The light fades, and the dragon watches intently as fine cracks begin to spread across the dark surface of the egg in Mao's hands. She clutches the large, purified egg, its surface now gleaming with a gentle light. A faint blush on her cheeks, she appears fully restored. Q's Takuma, seeing her renewed energy, asks if she is healed. Mao looks up at him and gives a cheerful confirmation. As relief washes over the group, the now tiny heavenly dragon nuzzles against Takuma's face, licking his cheek affectionately while Leash and the others look on. With a happy squeal, the small dragon launches itself into the air, its dark wings carrying it swiftly into the sky. It soars away, and perched on its back, the elf woman calls out to Takuma, exclaiming how wonderful the flight feels. Sometime later, Takuma rests beside a clutch of 3 large eggs, feeling drained. He smiles to himself, thinking about Mao's boundless energy. Leash approaches him, asking if he can still use his abilities, as he seems quite tired. Mao chimes in, recalling how he cured her paralysis with a simple touch, without any tools. She wonders aloud if he is an enchanter, a buffer, and now a healer as well. Suddenly, a tiny, fluffy creature emerges from one of the eggs, chirping softly. Takuma exclaims that it moved, and as he gently touches the hatchling, he expresses his relief that it's healthy. The next day, the group arrives at a settlement built directly into the face of a towering cliff. An elderly man greets them, surprised that companions of the savior would come to their village. Leash explains that they couldn't refuse the invitation, adding that she has wanted to meet the heavenly dragon. As the group prepares to depart, Noel thanks the old man for the rare materials, calling it a wonderful experience. The elder, with the small white hatchling resting on his back, encourages them to visit again anytime. Suddenly, a massive form descends from the sky, casting a shadow over the village. It is the heavenly dragon, its crystalline body shimmering as it lands. The villagers cry out its name in awe, and Mao gasps in excitement. The great beast approaches the group. Mao cheerfully thanks it for visiting and bids it farewell. The dragon then turns to Takuma, who is holding a large, smooth egg, and gently nudges him, much to his surprise. With that, the dragon launches back into the air and flies away. Takuma stares after it, completely baffled, questioning why it would leave a dragon egg with him. Noel simply exclaims that it's gone. He continues to hold the mysterious egg as Mao approaches it with a gentle expression. She places a hand on its surface, asking if it wants to travel with them. Takuma watches, realizing she seems to be communicating with the egg. Seeing this, one of the monks offers Takuma a special pouch imbued with mana. explaining it will protect the egg from any impact. As Takuma places the egg inside, it shrinks to a manageable size. The old man remarks that while the egg is energetic, it will be a long time before it hatches. Mao holds the small pouch containing the shrunken egg, her face alight with pure joy. She happily welcomes their new, unborn companion to the journey ahead. As they prepare to set out, a young elf woman calls out to them. She introduces herself as Sophia and thanks them profusely, revealing that they are the ones who saved her life. Seeing that they are leaving, she asks if she might travel with them to the next town, Kararu. She looks down nervously, admitting that after her recent ordeal, she is frightened to travel by herself. Takuma considers this and agrees, stating the solo journey would certainly be dangerous. He formally invites her to come along with them. His acceptance brings a brilliant, heartfelt smile to Sophia's face. Overjoyed, she immediately clings to his arm, expressing her happiness. Takuma is startled by the sudden display of affection, as Leash and Noel watch from behind with expressions of shock. As a newcomer, Sophia made her affections for Takuma clear. Leash watched from side. A flicker of amusement crossed her face, and she subtly licked her lips, her pointed ears twitching slightly as she took in the developing scene with keen interest. While traveling towards the city of Carol, the group takes a short break. Q's Takuma approaches a street vendor and purchases a sweet potato, offering his thanks. Mao takes the first bite of the warm treat. Her eyes sparkle with delight as she chews, declaring that it is incredibly delicious. She immediately turns and runs towards Q's Takuma, calling his name and eagerly offering him a bite of the sweet potato. However, before Mao can reach him, Sophia is already seated beside Q's Takuma, gently feeding him a piece of her own food. As she encourages him to open his mouth, Mao watches from the side, her expression unreadable. He asks if it's tasty, and Sophia, blushing slightly, confirms that it's very delicious. She adds that she loves to watch people eat with such enjoyment. The entire group sits together on a low wall. Leash and Noel observe as Sophia leans affectionately against a visibly flustered Q's Takuma, while Mao stands nearby, watching them. The peaceful moment is shattered when Noel leaps to her feet, pointing an accusatory finger. She demands to know if Q's Takuma and Sophia have become a couple after just a short time walking together. Her outburst leaves Q's Takuma stunned and speechless. From the side, Mao wonders what's wrong, muttering that the two of them seem to be lost in their own little world. Seeing his hesitation, Mao takes matters into her own hands, forcefully pushing her sweet potato into his mouth and insisting he eat her offering too. Caught by surprise, Q's Takuma realizes it's delicious. The taste seems to energize him. He stands up and asks if anyone wants another, declaring with a grin that he's certainly going to have more. Mao looks up at him eagerly as Sophia watches with a gentle smile. As the group continues their journey, Leash apologizes to Sophia and Noel, explaining that she seems to have a constitution that unconsciously makes men fall for her in their dreams. Noel playfully remarks that it's just like a certain someone she knows, adding that Sophia looks so delectable it's becoming a nuisance. Leash, flustered, insists she was just a bit startled. She then offers to accompany them, noting the anxieties of traveling alone. Mao, however, watches her with a suspicious gaze, asking if there's something on her face. The conversation shifts as Noel marvels at Sophia's long eyelashes, asking if she does anything special to maintain them. Blushing, Sophia replies that she doesn't, prompting Noel to exclaim with envy that she's a natural beauty. Leash then asks Sophia if she lives in the town of Carol. Sophia confirms that she does, adding that she works there as a fortune teller. At this revelation, Noel becomes incredibly excited, declaring that a fortune teller is amazing. She immediately asks if Sophia can tell her future with her darling. Sophia gently explains that she doesn't have her tools at the moment, but offers to do a reading for her once they arrive in Carol. Leash, blushing deeply, timidly asks about her own compatibility with Takuma. Her earnestness makes both Noel and Sophia smile, remarking on how honest and cute she is. Meanwhile, Q's Takuma returns to the group, handing a small snack to Mao and thanking her. As she accepts it, Mao thinks to herself that it's only a matter of time before he falls for her seduction magic. She realizes, however, that the spell will break if Sophia speaks to him. To maintain her influence, she offers to split the sweet and salty treat with Takuma, calling it a little bribe. The group soon arrives at an inn. Mao announces that this is where they will be staying for the night. Inside, Takuma notices a board covered in papers and remarks that even in post requests. Noel explains that the guild has outposts everywhere and suggests they could earn some money by taking a short detour before sunset. Clinging to Takuma's back, Mao enthusiastically agrees, shouting for a subjugation quest. He watched as Sophia, the fortune teller, announced to the other women that she was tired and would go rest first. Leash and Noel listened, as she then confessed that she felt anxious being alone. Hearing her unease, he stepped forward, offering to stay with her if she'd like. Sophia's face lit up as she accepted, thanking him for his kindness and moving to his side. Nearby, Mao watched the exchange with a displeased expression. She leaned in close, whispering that now they were finally alone, she would use her power to entice him. He, however, seemed to misunderstand, cheerfully announcing that he would go get ready. A confused Sophia asked what he was preparing for. A short while later, The sound of a sliding door was followed by a contented sigh from within the room. Inside, Sophia was relaxing in a wooden tub of hot water, remarking how good it felt. She noted that her body was hot, and, looking over at Takuma, added that he looked delicious and smelled good. In response, he presented a meal he had prepared. He explained that since they were staying the night, he had borrowed the kitchen to make them some food. The box contained carefully arranged rice balls and sausages shaped like penguins, a design he thought Mao would find cute. He sat beside her as she examined the food, remarking that she had never seen such a presentation before and wondered aloud if this was how meals were served in another world. He smiled, pleased with himself, thinking about how much Mao would enjoy the penguin shapes. Her attention, however, shifted from the food back to him. Leaning against his shoulder, she murmured that the color of his aura was unlike anything she had ever seen before. The unexpected comment caught him off guard. She moved in front of him, her gaze intense as she looked directly into his eyes. With certainty, she stated, "You are from another world, aren't you?" The direct accusation left him stunned. He remained speechless as she continued, her voice soft. She confessed that she had been picturing him, just as he was, and had been waiting for him for a long time. He stared, his eyes wide with shock. The fortune-teller's words struck him with the force of a physical blow, leaving him momentarily speechless. Before he could formulate a response, Sophia closed the distance and wrapped her arms around him in a gentle embrace. She confessed that she, too, had been waiting to meet him for a very long time. Takuma, still reeling, could only stammer in confusion. She then took his gloved hand in hers, her touch firm but gentle. Sophia suggested they begin their conversation somewhere private, urging him to come with her. Outside, Leash, Mao, and Noel stare in disbelief at a piece of paper held by Mao. Their expressions are a mixture of shock and confusion. The note, signed by Taku, announces that he and Sophia have decided to go on a journey together and bids them goodbye. Mao's face twists in a furious shout, her voice cracking as she yells, "What is this?" Her outburst is followed by Noel's own explosion of anger. She fumes that she knew something was off about that woman, Sophia, accusing her of using her looks to manipulate Takuma. Calling them both idiots, Noel declares she will investigate and tells Leash to wait for her, to which Leash calmly agrees. As Noel rushes off, Leash turns to a crestfallen Mao, asking if Takuma really left her. Mao quietly expresses her disbelief that he would do such a thing, wondering if something happened involving Sophia. She falls silent, her thoughts drifting as a deep blush spreads across her cheeks, her eyes wide with contemplation. Her blush deepens as she clutches the note, remembering how Takuma would make her meals and wait for her. Leash watches her friend, a look of concern on her face. Leash gently tries to comfort her, reminding Mao how much Takuma always thinks of her and her favorite foods, like tamagoyaki and penguin sausage. She insists that he would never just abandon her like this. She continues, reasoning that Takuma wouldn't just disappear without a word. If he was caught up in some incident, she explains, then it's not a situation to be sad about, but one to act on. To that end, Leash tells Mao that they should eat and wait while Noel investigates. Mao, now calmed, agrees and begins to eat her rice ball with determination. Noel soon returns, reporting that Sophia is apparently a famous fortune teller in the area, known for being both accurate and beautiful. This information gives them their first real lead, and Leash immediately asks where the two of them went. Their investigation led them to several witnesses who saw a man and woman entering the forest behind the inn. They spoke of rumors about Sophia's cottage being in that area, yet no one had ever seen such a building, leading to speculation that it was concealed by a magical barrier or some form of cognitive obstruction. Having gathered this testimony, Noel suggests that if the rumors are true, their friends must still be nearby. Leash agrees, but points out that if they haven't found the cottage by now, it must be well hidden. Seeing that it's getting late, she proposes they rest for the night and resume the search for Mao in the morning. She turns her gaze to an open window, the curtains fluttering in the cool night breeze as she contemplates their next move. Suddenly, the quiet is shattered by Mao's voice. She has bolted from the room, shouting that she will find Tak herself. Noel and Leash rush to the window in alarm. Leash calls out a warning that the forest is dangerous at night, regardless of one's strength, but Mao is already disappearing into the darkness. She plunges into the dark woods, her small familiar struggling to keep pace as she desperately calls out Takuma's nickname, Tak. Ignoring the small creatures of the forest that scatter before her, she pushes onward, her expression one of pure determination. She is too busy to be delayed. Following close behind, Noel notices a trail of magic stones glittering on the path Mao took. She calls out for the girl to wait. The trail leads her to a small cave, where she finds Mao sitting dejectedly beside a small fire fueled by the stones. Mao admits she couldn't find Tak or his house. She explains that she couldn't bear to just sit still, thinking he was so close, and asks Noel not to fly off on her own again. Her shoulders slump in defeat. As Leash arrives, Mao turns to both of them, her eyes welling up as she apologizes for suddenly running off and causing them so much worry. With her apology accepted, the group makes plans for the morning. Leash announces that she and Noel will search together. Noel enthusiastically agrees, vowing they will find Takuma, and explains that she has set up a simple barrier at the cave's entrance and found a good place for them to rest. As they settle by a small, magical campfire, Noel apologizes to Leash, who observes that Mao seems to be growing up. They agree to explore the forest again tomorrow. The small fire elemental bids them good night, and Leash politely returns the sentiment. As the group falls into a deep sleep, the only sound echoing through the dark cave is the steady drip of water from the stalactites above. One of these cold drops lands on the cheek of another figure resting within the cave, rousing her from her slumber. She lets out a great yawn, stretching her arms high above her head as she remarks aloud on how well she slept. A moment of stillness follows as a sudden realization begins to dawn on her. Her gaze drops to her own body, and a wave of confusion washes over her as she wonders aloud why she has reverted to this form. She senses a slight recovery in her mana, but her thoughts are interrupted by the sight of the small, horned girl, Mao, sleeping soundly while drenched in water. The woman stares, a blush on her cheeks, questioning if such a strange coincidence is even possible. Before Leash and Noel, the young girl Mao suddenly transforms into a tall, horned demon woman. Alarmed, Leash and Noel identify her as a member of the demon race. The woman herself looks panicked, wondering aloud why she has reverted to her original form at such a critical moment. Leash calls out in disbelief, questioning if it is truly Mao. The horned woman, flustered, raises her hands defensively, stammering for them not to be deceived by her appearance. She continues frantically, exclaiming that she doesn't understand how she ended up in this form. She resolves internally that she must continue to act the part of Mao to get through the situation. Leash asks Noel if they should attack. Noel hesitates, recalling the innocent face of a young Mao, but states that they cannot risk being tricked by a demon's words. With tears welling in her eyes, Mao pleads with them to believe her and to stop searching for Tak for now. She worries that she must hold out until she can return to her childlike form. Leash presses again, asking if she is really Mao. Noel, suddenly certain, points at her and exclaims to Leash that it is indeed Mao, remembering her small, impish, familiar form. Mao asks how they can be so sure. A realization dawns on Leash, who asks Mao who she remembers being beside her during a specific, unmentioned time. Mao looks shocked, admitting that she remembers someone was there, but can't recall who. Leash confirms that this is the correct memory. She continues her questioning, asking where Mao is. The horned woman replies that when she awoke, she was already like this and doesn't understand why, but she is determined to see it through. Leash and Noel exchange a pensive glance, silently contemplating the strange situation and whether to trust the woman before them. Sensing their doubt, Mao's demeanor shifts entirely. A confident, sly smile spreads across her face as she notes that they don't believe her. At that exact moment, Leash gasps as she is grabbed from behind, and Mao coolly apologizes for the confusion. She turned her attention to the figure who had appeared, a cloaked elf with glasses, and offered him a piece of fruit from a nearby tree. He cried out, "Eid!" as she simultaneously exclaimed with wide-eyed surprise, "Lord Demon King." From a nearby cave, Leash called out to Mao. Eid, however, smiled warmly, explaining that he was worried and had come looking for his Demon King. He asked what she was doing in such a place, leaving her flustered. He then glanced around, asking if someone was behind him. A nervous Mao quickly insisted that no one else was there. It was only her. His expression hardened. He concluded that the Demon King was too kind and had been deceived by Leash and Noel. Announcing that he would handle the situation, he told her to leave it to him. He began to conjure a sphere of dark energy, his cloak swirling as he vowed to eliminate the hindrances and awaken her. Before the spell was complete, her hand shot out and clamped down on his wrist, stopping him cold. He looked down, startled, and questioned the Demon King's interference. Suddenly, she was sent flying backward through the air, shouting that the brute's timing was terrible. Leash and Noel rushed to her side, apologizing for the rough attack, but thanking her for saving them. Mao, blushing, waved it off, saying it was fine and that she had believed in Eid. Noel pointed out the immense amount of mana in the nearby water. Mao explained that this was the cause of her transformation. She had accidentally absorbed the cave's mana. She assured them she would return to her normal form once the excess energy was depleted. She agrees with Noel's suggestion to find Tak, but wonders aloud how they will manage it. Noel, however, is already in motion, cheerfully declaring that they'll figure it out as she runs ahead to begin the search. As Noel disappears, Mao confides in Leash that she can faintly sense Tak's presence, but not his exact location. Leash seems relieved, stating that just knowing he's nearby is enough. Mao, however, expresses frustration, lamenting that she lacks the power to revert to her original form. Unbeknownst to them, the location is indeed concealed by magic, waiting for some kind of trigger to be revealed. A quiet house sits nestled amongst the trees, hiding its secrets. The scene shifts to a simple, illustrated story. It tells of a beautiful and prosperous island, which was tragically stolen by evil people. The tale continues, explaining that a sorrowful girl prayed to a god for help. In response, a boy was summoned from another world, and he vanquished the evildoers. This boy became known as the Savior, and together with the girl, he embarked on a new journey to safeguard the peace of the world. Back in the present, Sophia closes the book, her story finished. She explains to Q's Takuma that she has adored this tale since childhood and has always dreamed of meeting the Savior. He listens, acknowledging her words. Her gaze fixes on him, her expression filled with pure adoration. She tells him that now, at last, she has met the Savior. He turns away, flustered, attempting to deny the title. He insists he is not the savior, but Sophia cuts him off, stating firmly that he is the one who came from another world. Her eyes seem to glow as she tells him not to let her own eyes mislead him. He is left speechless, touching the back of his neck as he considers his simple, black-haired appearance and the unprecedented crimson aura she sees. Sophia, meanwhile, is visibly overwhelmed, breathing heavily with a trickle of drool escaping her lips. He asks with concern if she's all right. He watches as Sophia, with a flustered expression, admits she became so happy that she forgot her objective. She announces she will bring some tea and exits the room. In the other room, she prepares the drink, adding a single drop from a vial labeled Charm Magic Potion into the cup with a knowing smile. She returns to the bedside and offers him the cup, thinking that once he drinks it, he will become her eternal servant. Unaware, Takuma accepts the drink with a smile. As he raises the cup to his lips, a small, round creature suddenly materializes on his lap, causing him to pause in confusion. The creature then launches itself from his lap directly at Sophia, who lets out a surprised cry. It bounces off her and lands squarely on Takuma's head. He cries out in pain, wondering aloud what just happened as Sophia stares, taken aback. The small being bounces back towards Sophia, who reacts with a shudder of pleasure. She realizes with a start that her charm magic has been dispelled. He now holds the creature, which Sophia calls Tamagotchan, in his hands. She laments that it interfered with their marriage, leaving Takuma completely bewildered and asking what she means. With a deep blush, Sophia explains to Takuma that he is her savior and a prince, and that it is their destiny to be together. She suggests they calm down and talk things through slowly. Leaning closer, her expression earnest and her face flushed, she makes a direct plea for her savior to fall in love with her. The intensity is too much for him. Takuma's eyes roll back as he faints from the overwhelming excitement. As he collapses, Sophia lovingly calls out his name, referring to him as her savior. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Mao senses the presence of a god. She turns to Noel and states that Takuma must be there as well. With a determined cry, she declares that they are both going and launches herself forward through the forest with incredible speed. Noel struggles to keep up, carrying Mao's smaller form. She marvels at the adult Mao's power and worries that her own body will revert at any moment. The sheer force of the leap sends both Noel and the small Mao flying through the air amidst a cloud of dust and motion. They land softly in a strange, dark space filled with twinkling stars. The small Mao looks around in confusion, wondering aloud where they could be. Noel, relieved, notes that Mao has returned to her child form. She then asks if Mao, while searching for the god's presence, can also sense where Takuma is. The small Mao confirms she can sense a sparkling presence in a certain direction. Noel points, realizing it's the same way they were headed. With their target identified, she declares they should go. Before Sophia, a radiant, ethereal figure appeared, striking a playful pose. With a cheerful voice, she announced herself as a goddess. Sophia could only stare, stammering in disbelief. The goddess confirmed her identity, explaining that with Takuma unconscious, things were uninteresting. She declared that the certification of him being a fated person would be put on hold for now. Her words barely registered with Sophia, who was overwhelmed by the very presence of a deity come to bless them. She clasped her hands, her thoughts consumed by the realization that Takuma was truly her fated savior from another world, a fact the goddess noted she was completely ignoring. Her initial joy soured into anxiety. She began to worry, realizing that Takuma likely had many fated partners. A dreadful thought surfaced. Perhaps the love between them wasn't genuine after all. Sensing her distress, the goddess leaned closer, her voice firm. She assured Sophia that a false love could never triumph over a true one, comparing the situation to a classic fairy tale. This prompted Sophia to reflect on her own feelings. She admitted to herself that while men often approached her for her beauty, Takuma was the first person she had ever truly fallen for. The problem was, she had no idea how to actually charm him. The goddess listened patiently before breaking into a smile. She cheerfully pointed out that this meant all of Sophia's romantic firsts. Her first kiss, first date, and first whispered confessions would be with Takuma. She then offered to help Sophia practice her first confession. Her suggestion sent a flurry of images through Sophia's mind. A first time holding hands, a first date, a first wedding, a first embrace, and a first kiss, all with Takuma. Inspired by these visions, Sophia gently embraced the still unconscious Takuma. Her face flushed as she vowed to give all of her first to him. At that exact moment, the door creaked open, revealing Noel and Mao, who noted with surprise that they had arrived. They didn't hesitate. With a loud crash, Noel and Mao burst into the room. Mao cried out for attack, while Noel shouted that they were there to interfere. She and Mao make their presence known, with the young girl crying out Takuma's name. He turns, startled, questioning if it is truly Mao before him. In response to his confusion, Sophia turns to Mao and apologizes, confessing that she was the one who wrote the letter left at the inn to summon Takuma. He looks on, even more bewildered by the mention of a letter. The young girl then looks up at him with wide, earnest eyes, explaining that her coming here was not by his design. Overcome with emotion, she buries her face in his chest, her voice trembling as she tells him how sad she was when he suddenly disappeared. He gently places a hand on her head, comforting her and apologizing for causing her pain. As he comforts the child, Noel confronts Sophia, demanding to know her purpose with Takuma. A blushing Sophia admits she wanted to monopolize his attention and apologizes. Noel loudly questions if she is lying, startling Takuma. The tense atmosphere gives way to a calmer discussion inside a nearby house. The group sits as Sophia begins to explain, recounting how her foster mother often told her stories of a savior from another world. She continues, her expression animated, describing how she spent her childhood gathering information from books and scrolls, trying to imagine what this savior would be like. She confesses that she had been searching for him for a very long time. Her past efforts, she admits, were always met with disappointment whenever she chased down rumors. Her gaze then softens as she looks at Takuma, remarking on how irresistibly cute he is for a maiden to behold, which catches him completely off guard. She recounts hearing that the savior was heading to the capital, only to be captured by the demon tribe. It was then, she explains, that Takuma appeared and rescued her. The young Mao, still in his arms, looks up and agrees that he is her hero, too. Looking at him with conviction, she declares that she knew their meeting was fate, as his simple, dark appearance matched the image she had always held in her mind. Noel immediately counters this, stating that the elven legends paint a very different picture, one of a brave, dignified youth possessing great talent, courage, and love. She muses that Sophia must have been waiting for the savior for a very long time. Mao listens intently beside her. Sophia, meanwhile, turns to a flustered Takuma, confessing that she fell for him at first sight. She explains that while she had heard the savior was just as Noel described, the legends about his appearance vary depending on the tradition. She then boldly declares that from this point forward, they will be traveling companions and rivals in love, as she has already decided they will have a romantic marriage. Takuma and Mao are stunned by her forwardness, but Sophia simply apologizes for her forceful approach, adding that it's fine as long as he understands. Her declaration is met with laughter from Noel, who remarks that Sophia is far more interesting than she had imagined. Mao, blushing with admiration, murmurs about how adult Sophia is. Sophia then asks if Mao would like to join their party as well, an offer the young girl enthusiastically accepts. With Mao now in her arms, Sophia leans in toward Takuma, whispering that his identity as the savior from another world will be a secret just between the two of them. As the new group forms, the adult version of Mao watches from the side, a thoughtful expression on her face. The group arrives at the border town of Carol in the Van Bell Kingdom. A massive stone wall with a grand archway serves as the main gate, through which travelers and carts pass over a bridge spanning a wide canal that flows through the settlement. Inside the town, Noel excitedly points out a boatman navigating the canal. She calls to Takuma, marveling at the sight of boats within the city. The boatman offers them a ride, and Mao, her eyes sparkling with delight, eagerly asks if they can accept. With a gentle splash, their boat glides through the water. Mao leans over the side, her face alight with wonder as she watches fish swim by, exclaiming in pure delight at the novel experience. After their boat ride, Sophia leads them to a charming building with distinctive circular windows. She proudly announces that this is her shop, Aquamarine. As they approach, townspeople greet her warmly, commenting on her beauty, and she thanks them with a smile. Inside, the elegant decor impresses Mao, who asks if this is where Sophia performs her divinations. Sophia confirms, but suggests they all relax in the back room first. She leads them through the building to a private riverside area. The calm water creates a stunning, secluded beach. Sophia announces that she has prepared swimsuits for them, so they can enjoy a swim. A moment later, Noel and Mao are already in the water, splashing about joyfully in their new swimsuits. Noel lets out a happy shout as they play. She sighs in contentment, remarking how wonderful the water feels and how it washes away all her fatigue. From the shore, Takuma watches them, cautioning them not to be too loud and disturb the neighbors. He is soon joined by Sophia and Noel, who have also changed into swimsuits. Sophia explains that the area is protected by a perception-blocking spell, so they won't be disturbed. She then leans close to Takuma, whispering that since swimsuits are hardly necessary and the children are occupied, perhaps the two of them could relax together somewhere more private. Her suggestive comment leaves Takuma flustered. Sophia claims it was just a joke about his swimsuit, though her blush suggests otherwise. Trying to change the subject, he looks around and asks where Leash is, his gaze falling upon Noel and Mao still playing in the water. His attention shifts to Sophia, who stands blushing in a simple swimsuit. She explains to Noel and Leash that it's the only one she has, and it's the most revealing of the options. Noel, looking apologetic, confirms that the other choices were even more daring. She then turns to find Takuma looking at her, causing her to blush deeper and cross her arms defensively. She tells him it's embarrassing to be stared at so intently. His response, however, is not what she expected. He calmly asks if she would mind taking off the swimsuit, a request that leaves her wide-eyed and utterly stunned. Before the misunderstanding can escalate, Leash leans in to tease a flustered Takuma, gleefully remarking that he's finally letting his wild side show. He quickly clarifies his intentions, explaining to the group that he received a large amount of fabric from the guild and can make them something new. Sophia, looking relieved, agrees to his offer. Moments later, Noel emerges, delighted with a new, custom-made swimsuit adorned with a plaid ribbon in her hair. He then makes a final adjustment, carefully adding a small piece of fabric to the design as Noel watches on. With their new swimsuits complete, Noel and the younger mouse splash happily in the water. Noel exclaims how cute her suit is, and Takuma confirms that adding the frill was a good choice. She thanks him profusely. Watching them play, the adult Mao decides it's time to properly introduce herself. She reveals her name is Leash, and that she is a water attribute elf, not particularly skilled in combat, but adept at stealth and information gathering. She adds that elves live in many places, not just their villages, much to Takuma's surprise. Sophia gazes intently at Leash, her expression analytical. She remarks that Leash is a wind attribute elf, one who appears particularly adept at offensive magic. Mao, surprised by this insight, asks if Sophia can truly perceive such things. In response, Noel chimes in with a cheerful smile. She explains that as a dwarf, she is naturally dexterous. While she hasn't witnessed it herself, she's heard that Sophia's fortune-telling is incredible. Everyone, she notes, seems to have their own cool attributes. Sophia corrects her, clarifying that what she does isn't exactly fortune-telling. She explains that she is perceiving the aura of the person she observes. Noel, intrigued, asks if an aura is different from mana. She elaborates, explaining that her eyes allow her to visualize a person's life force, their physical state, and even their thoughts. Turning to Leash, she asks if she can also see auras, adding that she doesn't recall Leash having such an ability when they first met. Hearing this, Mao excitedly turns to Sophia and asks what she can perceive about her. She questions if Sophia can see anything about her life before she lost her memories, or perhaps the connection she has to her original adult form. After a moment of observation, Sophia concludes that while the details are muddled by a mix of colors and she cannot see any specific memories, one thing is clear. Mao possesses an immense and vibrant aura, brimming with energy. His curiosity piqued, Tak asks Sophia if she can tell him about his aura, eager to learn about his own capabilities. Sophia's face flushes a deep red as she stammers, a single word escaping her lips: love. Internally, she realizes his aura is a divine, rainbow hue, the very aura of a savior. The conversation shifts as Leash addresses the group, asking if they are all traveling in pursuit of the savior. She then reveals her own purpose, stating that she is following him based on an oracle she received in the elven village. From her perch on Tak's shoulders, Mao clarifies her own goals. She is searching for Tak, the person of her destiny, while also serving as Leash protector. On top of that, she is using their journey to search for her own family. Noel cheerfully ties all their motivations together. She explains that she's looking for future husband. Leash and Mao are adorable travel companions, and since Tak is also a potential husband candidate, it makes sense for them all to journey together. She laughs, admitting that they certainly don't look like a typical adventuring party. As Sophia observed Q's Takuma, she analyzed his unusual aura. It felt distinctly otherworldly, leading her to wonder if he was truly the savior she sought, and if others like him existed. Noticing her intense gaze, Tak, holding Mao, turned and asked, "Is there something on my face?" Her cheeks flushed as she internally confessed her deep admiration for his aura, finding it exactly as she imagined a savior's would be. Seeing her blush, Tak pressed her for a reason. Changing the subject, Sophia asked if she could join him on his journey, prompting him to question what she would do about her shop. Sometime later, the group found themselves stuck in a long queue. His patience worn thin, Tak shouted out in frustration, demanding to know how much longer they would be made to wait and asking where the person in charge was. Beside him, Sophia and Leash looked on with concern. In response to the delay, Leash pointed towards a large structure in the distance, identifying it as the border checkpoint. Hearing this, Mao cheerfully suggested they go investigate. They made their way toward the checkpoint, a formidable stone gatehouse where a large crowd of travelers and merchants with their carts had gathered, forming a bottleneck at the entrance. As they moved through the throng, they overheard the growing discontent. One person complained about being told the wait would be short, while another fretted that their cart of vegetables would spoil. Mao quietly took in the scene of rising frustration. Their progress was halted when two distressed men approached them. One explained that they were in trouble because the bridge was impassable, causing distress among the children. Turning to her companion, Sophia asked Noel if she knew what was happening. Before she could answer, a large, boisterous man with pointed ears and a grand white beard called out a cheerful greeting to Noel, remarking that she was as energetic as ever. Noel happily recognized him as Beryl. Tak, surprised, asked if they knew each other. He beamed, glad that Noel had finally found the person she had been looking for. Beryl then turned to Tak, warning him not to make Noel cry and commenting on his foul mood. A flustered Noel quickly tried to silence him. She changed the subject, asking what had happened to the bridge. Beryl's expression grew serious as he gestured toward the structure. He explained that a demon beast had attacked it, and though he was hired to make repairs, the work had stalled completely due to a lack of necessary materials. He explains that he was on his way to check on his apprentices in the village. It's unusual for the delivery to be delayed, he muses, wondering aloud if something has happened. Hearing his concern, Noel suggests that if he's worried, her group could go to the village as well. She elaborates, noting that everyone seems to be in a bind and that she's curious to visit her own home. Besides, she adds, she can't just leave the savior behind. The title Savior catches his attention. He recalls that a group with the same name arrived several days prior. Upon learning the bridge was out, they headed for a detour through the forest upstream, and he mentions that he tried to stop them. Leash considers this, remarking that crossing the border through the forest would take days, perhaps longer than it would take to repair the bridge. Takuma agrees, concluding that fixing the bridge must be their highest priority. With renewed purpose, Leash urges them to head to Noel's village. She reasons that they can't fix the bridge without materials, and this gives them a chance to visit the dwarf village. Noel agrees, adding that she wanted to see an old man before leaving the country anyway. She turns back to Beryl, volunteering her group to check on the village for him. She explains that with a carriage, they can arrange things and arrive within a day, which will be a great help. Mao cheers at the prospect of riding in a carriage. As the plan forms, Sophia turns to Takuma. She explains that many dwarves are enchanters, suggesting that someone in the village might have knowledge about his unique abilities. He looks down at his gloved hand, a flicker of hope in his eyes as he considers the possibility of finally understanding his own power. With their new destination set, the group settles into the back of a wooden cart, which rumbles along a path through the woods. Sophia, dressed in an alluring outfit, gazes at Takuma with a blush and asks him when he would like to hold their wedding ceremony. He is taken aback by this sudden proposal. Sophia explains that she can no longer suppress her feelings for him and wants to marry him immediately, though she tells him to calm down. Beside them, Mao chews on something, seemingly oblivious. He tries to reason with her, pointing out that they've only just met and that his affection for her stems from her being the savior from another world. He asks if she is even listening. Blushing, Sophia admits that she's happy he's looking at her so intently, but finds it embarrassing. He relents slightly, acknowledging how sudden this all is. As a compromise, he suggests they go on a date to get to know each other first. This is a negotiation tactic, making a smaller request after a larger one is denied, and Sophia seems delighted by the idea. Nearby, Mao asks Leash what a date is. Leash explains that it involves activities like sharing a meal or shopping to deepen a relationship. Upon hearing this, Mao excitedly declares that she wants to go on a date too, and so the group sets off into the town streets, with a beaming Mao leading the way, followed by a slightly bewildered Takuma and a smiling Sophia. As they walk, Sophia's gaze falls upon Takuma's hand. She muses that she likes his rugged, sun-tanned hands and, declaring she'll take it, reaches out and clasps it in her own. Her action is immediately countered as Mao, appearing as if from nowhere, firmly grabs Takuma's other hand. Sophia looks on in shock, wondering when the young girl got there. Mao, holding his hand firmly, explains that she felt relieved when Leash wasn't being approached by men. Therefore, to put Sophia at ease, she will hold her hand. She adds that since the streets are crowded, it's better if they walk together this way. Sophia is touched by the gesture, calling Mao a good girl. Smiling, Takuma asks if this means he should protect Mao. She agrees, and the three of them walk on, with Takuma holding a hand of each. He found himself led into an armory, where Sophia explained that the shop had private rooms for trying on equipment. She then revealed her desire, for him to try on a set of armor she had in mind, leaving Takuma to wonder what she was planning. Moments later, he stood awkwardly in a suit of resplendent, almost regal armor. Sophia's face flushed a deep red as she stammered her approval, her heart pounding. Mao, peering from the side, found the sight amusing and agreed with Sophia's assessment. The situation then reversed as Sophia stepped behind a curtain to try on an outfit of her own, playfully telling Mao not to make fun of it. Takuma quickly shouted at Mao not to look, but the young girl was already staring in shock, realizing that Sophia had forgotten she was wearing clothes underneath her armor. Following the commotion, Takuma sighed in exasperation, rubbing his head. Mao, however, couldn't contain her laughter at Sophia's absent-mindedness, while Sophia herself simply blushed with embarrassment. Leaving the shop behind, they continued their walk through the town's market. Sophia, noticing a stall, pointed to a glass of juice and suggested to a weary Takuma that they stop for a drink. Seated at a small table, Sophia smiled warmly at Mao. She remarked how unexpectedly enjoyable it was for the two of them to be sharing a drink like this, a sentiment that brought a look of pure delight to Mao's face. Just then, Takuma returned, holding 2 fish-shaped pastries. He announced his purchase, and Mao, overjoyed, thanked him profusely. As a gesture of gratitude, she offered to split her juice with Sophia. She held the 2 pastries, one large and one small, comparing them. A moment of contemplation turned to wide-eyed shock as a thought seemed to strike her. Despite her initial shock, Mao began to happily eat the larger pastry. Seeing this, Sophia offered her the smaller one as well. Mao, her mouth full, gratefully accepted, asking if she could really have the bigger one. Watching her eat, Takuma noticed a crumb on her cheek and gently wiped it away. He commented on what a truly good and cute child she was, prompting a happy, winking thanks from Mao, who expressed her envy. He slept soundly in his bed. The door to his room creaked open, and Sophia quietly peeked inside before slipping into the room and closing the door behind her. As he slept, she stood over him, a thoughtful expression on her face. She reflected that while their date had been enjoyable, she felt a bit overshadowed by Mao's cuteness. Now, she decided it was her turn to have some fun. With that thought, Her expression shifted to one of flushed determination. She resolved to make their night date a thoroughly intense and enjoyable one. Moments later, a sensation stirred him from his deep sleep. He mumbled, half-conscious, questioning the feeling. The feeling was soon forgotten as he drifted back into slumber, now with Sophia nestled warmly against his side. She watched him for a moment, her features soft and content, before closing her eyes and settling into a peaceful sleep beside him. Her attention then shifted to Mao, sleeping soundly nearby. Watching the child's angelic face, Sophia felt her own desires being purified, and she conceded defeat for the night. The next morning, Takuma awoke with a jolt. He found Sophia sleeping soundly beside him, completely uncovered, with Mao standing at the foot of the bed. He cried out her name in alarm, exclaiming that she had once again forgotten to put on her clothes.